What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 3SK Chapter 51 Hikoku's 6 King Gun. First update, please order first. Finally. Are you going to take action? Looking at Blue Ogre and Red Ogre, they were wielding their weapons and their momentum was getting higher and higher. It was a bit astonishing. Both Oz and William have glaring eyes with a high-spirited fighting spirit. I'm not unprepared, in the surprised eyes of Blue Ogre and Red Ogre. William suddenly took out a stack of shadows from his arms. Countless compressed shadows were struggling there. These are all the shadows of pirates he encountered these days who took the initiative to provoke them and were captured by him. I deliberately kept a part of it on my body in case of emergencies, and used it to enhance my own combat power. Instead of struggling to absorb the shadows of those zombie legions. The shadow of 500 people should be enough, right? William's eyes were stern. He suddenly pressed these shadows on his body. The plundered shadows were all absorbed into his body. Thump thump. The heartbeat like a drum kept echoing. The muscles are pulsing, and all the veins are popping out. The casual clothes were torn apart and turned into countless strips of cloth scattered. The figure, which was already over 3 meters tall, was once again expanding at a speed visible to the naked eye. 24's hair stood up. Originally fair skin, it turned directly into a faint blue, wild and weird. William's entire face was distorted, his veins were exposed, and his eyes were filled with terrifying bloodshot eyes. There it roared like a wild beast. Woohoo! An astonishing airwave, accompanied by deafening sound waves, swept across. People can't help but change their color in shock. Lord William. The demon Oz next to him widened his eyes. He stared blankly at William, whose image had changed drastically and was completely unrecognizable. In the blink of an eye, William, who was originally 3 meters tall, had turned into a little giant no less than 5 or 6 meters tall. The momentum is incomparably breathtaking and terrifying. It's daunting. Press down on your feet. The earth cracked and smoke flew into the air. The exaggerated power makes people's scalp numb. Take a long breath. William waved his hand, his voice became extremely hoarse, and signaled Oz not to worry. Although it is far from the limit, but I think it is almost enough. Blue Ogre Dory and Red Ogre Brogy looked straight ahead. The spear that the Elbaf giants are proud of. Next, let me see it. Next moment. Shadow Revolution Gigantic, advertisement. William's eyes narrowed, the momentum keeps rising. The figure of 5 to 6 meters tall continued to grow with the shadow. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into a person who was second only to the demon Oz and about 30 meters tall. The muscles all over his body are bulging, and the exposed veins are beating constantly, exuding an unparalleled violent aura. It makes people feel a little frightened and their scalp feels numb. This guy is really not simple, indeed, this size can be considered as an ancient giant. Look at William's amazing changes. Blue Ogre and Red Ogre, who were already ready to go, were a little surprised. But at the same time, the fighting spirit is even higher. For the glory of Elbaf, they can't lose. Oz, are you ready? William's voice was hoarse. He put his fists together and his momentum was terrifying. His bloodshot eyes revealed madness. We can't be embarrassed. Certainly, Demon Oz bared his teeth. The ferocious eyes revealed a strong fighting spirit, and he also took a stance. Put your fists together there. The violent momentum keeps rising. Stay www. Seeing this, Blue Ogre and Red Ogre were there laughing. Elbafs. For a moment, their eyes were stern and sharp. It's as if it has been experienced countless times and is an instinct that has been tempered thousands of times. The weapon in his hand traced a rapid trajectory. Without hesitation, they all attacked violently. Hikoku. In an instant, the atmosphere was directly distorted. In the extremely shocked eyes of Wappa, Perona, Hogba Gu and others who were watching the battle from a distance. A huge shock wave visible to the naked eyes suddenly swept out. At an astonishing speed, it blasted hard at William and Demon Oz, who were waiting for them. 6 styles. William and Oz are side by side there. 2 huge figures, far larger than ordinary giants, with astonishing momentum. With their fists together, the amazing hockey flowed, and they both yelled, Maximum Wheel 6 King Gun. Advertisement, buzz, buzz, the atmosphere was directly distorted. Facing the huge shockwave, he blasted out without showing any signs of weakness. The whole island was shaken, the earth was directly torn apart ruthlessly. All obstacles were instantly reduced to ruins. Boom. 2 shockwaves, one large and one small, kept squeezing each other. Finally, William and the Demon Oz released a shockwave. Crushed ruthlessly. Woohoo, woohoo, however. Accompanied by fierce and unparalleled wind pressure. The shockwave released by Blue Ogre and Red Ogre. After all, the momentum ran out and gradually dissipated. The sea is boiling and surging. It set off an unimaginable huge wave. Wave after wave swept towards the depths of the sea. 100 is jaw-dropping, breaking into a cold sweat. Gulu. Is this the legendary giant's strongest combat skill? Such an exaggerated shockwave, Lord William and Oz actually worked together to block it. After practicing the 6 styles to the ultimate, you are actually so powerful. It's simply too exaggerated, on Prehistoric Island. He stared blankly at the large area of Prehistoric Island that had been reduced to ruins, as well as those tall and majestic figures that stood tall and tall. Witnessing that incomparable blow with their own eyes, Perona, Brook, Hogba Gu and others could not help but open their mouths wide and could not close them for a long time. The soul was strongly impacted, extremely shocking. At the same time, on Prehistoric Island, covered in blood and in a state of embarrassment, Blue Ogre and Red Ogre stood there, panting. The weapon in his hand, due to constant fighting over the past 100 years and lack of maintenance for a long time, could not withstand the powerful force, and immediately turned into scrap metal and broke apart. Ga ga ga, Brogy, we lose. Kabababa, Dory, it looks like this. Looking ahead, the 2 people who blocked Elbaf's gun were safe and sound. Exhausted and already severely wounded, they were unable to fight anymore and both fell down. Bang. Bang. Chapter 52 The Giant's Shadow, Nightmare Form, second update, please subscribe. In the ruins ahead, 2 unattainable figures, one large and one small, stood there. It is indeed the highest combat skill of the giants, it is really ridiculously strong. Watching the 2 giant warriors fall down, their bodies covered with scars, slightly embarrassed, but not seriously injured, William bared his teeth and smiled. After he trained the 6 styles to the ultimate, he derived the secret 6 King gun based on it, and further improved the 6 King gun. After all, it is more suitable for close combat. To deal with single targets, the power should be more concentrated. The damage range is quite exaggerated, and it can be used by 2 people together. As a long-distance attack, there is still some gap between Elbaf's gun. After all, it is the strongest combat skill that generations of Elbaf giants have developed through continuous practice and improvement. And although he and Majin Oz work well together, 6 King gun is not a combo like Hikoku after all. It cannot be used like the Elbaf spear mastered by Blue Ogre and Red Ogre. Working together, the effect of 1 + 1 is far greater than 2. Tisk, tisk, I didn't expect their combined attack skills to be so powerful. The Demon Oz on the side is also a little embarrassed, but the injury is not painful to him. Even Sir William and I jointly used the largest 6 King gun, and it was almost unable to stop it. Next moment, William's whole body seemed like a deflated balloon, his figure kept shrinking and returned to its original shape. Brush. Swipe. Shadows left one after another. But in an instant, the black thread passed through it and was tightly bound. He collected it directly. Huh, the load is really big enough. William wiped his sweat. His extremely muscular upper body was naked. A large number of black shadows poured out and turned into trousers. Of course, the fierce battle just now consumed a lot of money. But it won't make him lose his fighting power directly. Sir William, what should we do with these 2 guys? Demon Oz asked directly, pointing to the 2 giants Blue Ogre and Red Ogre who were seriously injured and unconscious. You don't have to worry about that. With such a big body, you won't burst the dungeon. Arriving directly in front of Blue Ogre and Red Ogre, William said nonchalantly, when I cut out their shadows, let the Shadow Mage send them directly to the dungeon and lock them up. He had already specially prepared a cell for the 2 former leaders of the giant soldier pirates that could accommodate them, so there was no need to worry about not being able to accommodate them. Oz's size is so exaggerated, he was worried that this guy would collapse the newly expanded dungeon. Later, Oz, you will be responsible for leading the zombie army to capture the large beasts that have escaped on the island, especially the pterosaurs with the ability to fly. It doesn't matter whether they're dead or alive, but the corpses must be kept intact. William then ordered, next, I am going to build an army of beasts and flying troops. He has long had the idea of forming an army of ferocious beasts. As for whether those ferocious beasts can be tamed, there is no need to worry at all. Advertisement: it only takes a little time to stuff the plundered shadows into their corpses. The beast zombies created can not only ensure 100% loyalty, but also possess human wisdom and perfectly execute combat instructions. No problem. Majin Oz bared his teeth. He turned around and looked around, sizing up the prehistoric island, and began to look for targets. Although some areas have become devastated due to the battle between them, the island is huge enough and most of the area is still intact. Those ancient creatures that have become extinct in other places, such as Triceratops, saber-toothed tiger, Brachiosaurus, and pterosaurs, have all gone to other places. Kagekuri. William stopped talking nonsense and his eyes sharpened suddenly. The shadows of 2 giants were directly pulled up by him. In the blink of an eye, the huge shadow was struggling but unable to resist. He cut it off directly. Shadow Ball. Immediately afterwards, William raised his right hand and shook it suddenly. The unreasonably large shadow was continuously compressed at a speed visible to the naked eye, turning into 2 black balls. Ext. Oh ho ho ho, I'm really shocked. I didn't expect the giant's combat skills to be so amazing. Hiss tilde hiss tilde hiss tilde. As expected of Sir William, even the leader of the giant soldier pirates is no match for you. At this time, Perona, Brook, Hogba Gu and others rushed over one after another. He looked at William, who was in a bit of embarrassment but was not seriously injured, looked at the intimidating Demon Oz standing there as if nothing was wrong, and the 2 giant warriors lying there covered in blood. Everyone couldn't help but feel a little inexplicable. This battle was too shocking for them. Seeb, it can be said to be an eye-opener. This is... Perona blinked her big eyes, looking at the two strange, black balls. In William's hand, he was full of surprise. Okay, stop flattering. William waved his hand. There is no pride or pride. He is very clear that his current strength is still lacking and he needs to work harder. He glanced at the unconscious giant lying there. Brush, I thought in my mind. The shadow person under his feet stood up and turned into a substantial shadow clone. Shadow giant. The next moment, the shadow mage was like an inflated balloon, constantly expanding and enlarging. A huge black shadow, no smaller than Blue Ogre Dory and Red Ogre Brogy, stood there. Advertisement in the somewhat dumbfounded gazes of Perona and others, it directly showed quite exaggerated strength, simply and crudely carrying Blue Ogre and Red Ogre, two giants that were about 20 meters tall and as big as mountains. Taking heavy steps, he walked towards the ship of terror. Then, the rest is up to you, Oz. William had no intention of staying. The shadow wings spread out and flew straight towards the terrifying ship. Wait for me, Lord William. Perona, who was originally a spirit body, floated in the air and hurriedly followed. Hey, when Wappa saw this, he also turned into lightning. Only the three of them, Brook, Vanoka, and Hogba Gu, were left looking at each other. I had no choice but to walk back on foot again. They can't fly. Soon, all over the prehistoric island, there were constant roars of beasts and roars. Under the leadership of the demon Oz, the zombie army has launched operations and began to continuously capture and hunt those large beasts. As for the more troublesome pterosaurs with the ability to fly, they are the negative ghosts sent directly by Perona to assist in the capture. On the ship of terror, William returned here with Wappa, Perona, Hogba Gu and others. A shadow ball, compressed from Blue Ogre Dory's shadow, was absorbed into his body. Next moment, he was shaken all over. He couldn't help but growl. The whole person clenched his fists tightly, and his veins popped out. The body actually expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. The originally perfectly proportioned muscle lines became extremely exaggerated like an inflated balloon. From being just over 3 meters tall, he once again transformed into a muscular giant 5 to 6 meters tall. The black hair has grown a lot and stands up. His skin color turned even darker blue. The momentum is extremely powerful. Lord William's nightmare form. Is this the shadow of the giants? Looking at William, who was completely different from before. The spirit body left the body, and Perona, who was floating there and watching, was a little shocked. Only one shadow can produce such an exaggerated change. At least it can equal the shadows of hundreds of people. When William fought against the two giants Blue Ogre and Red Ogre, he had absorbed hundreds of shadows at once, and his whole person had undergone tremendous changes. All of a sudden, the whole person is not just getting bigger. His own speed and strength increased by more than 10 times. Sir William once called it nightmare form. It's almost the same as now. Chapter 53. Beast Legion and Flying Troops, 3rd update. Please subscribe. Hiss tilde hiss tilde hiss tilde. Probably because the master of this shadow is too powerful. On the training ground. Looking at William, who just absorbed the shadow of a giant warrior and directly entered the dream demon form, Hogba said with a strange smile. After all, that is the shadow of the leader of the giant pirates, not to mention the strongest warrior of the giant clan, but it should be almost done, right? Wappa, Brook, Vanoka and others nodded. In the previous battle, the strength shown by Blue Ogre and Red Ogre was obvious to all. It can be said that it was impressive. Even if it's just a shadow, even if I am a shadow fruit user. I can't sustain it for less than half an hour? William relaxed slightly. But this is much better than directly absorbing a large number of mixed shadows. Stuff the plundered shadow into the body of a living person. There will be a huge rejection reaction, and he, the educator, is no exception. Although you can directly stuff a large number of shadows into your own body. It can make one's own strength skyrocket in all directions in a short period of time. But time is limited. The more shadows are absorbed. Not only are the restrictions greater, they are also difficult to control. And the shadows of giants like Blue Ogre and Red Ogre. The quality is naturally far from comparable to those of low-level pirates. One of them can rival 500 ordinary shadows, and it is relatively easy to control and will not affect the battle. And for him, if he just absorbs the two shadows into his body to enhance his own combat power, the rejection reaction will not be that big. In contrast, it is undoubtedly more cost-effective. You can consider bringing them with you as a trump card, just in case. Anyway, the current dungeon on the terror ship is almost saturated. Plus the next beast army and flying troops. Overall, the number of zombie legions is almost enough. In a short period of time, there is no need to capture more prisoners. However, it should be enough. Ignore Hogba Gu and others. He was digesting the huge amount of information with his eyes closed. But William didn't examine all of Blue Ogre's mixed memories. A giant's long life of hundreds of years would probably burst his head. So I only selectively extracted memories related to hockey, the giant's combat skills, Elbaf's spear, etc. I do not know how long it has been. William opened his eyes. A huge shadow broke away from the body and continued to expand. Advertisement. His whole body was like a deflated balloon, and he quickly returned to his original state, his fatigue visible to the naked eye. Holding on to the shadow that just escaped, compress it into a shadow ball, the size of a walnut, and prevent it from returning to Blue Ogre. Come again. William gritted his teeth. He once again absorbed the shadow of Red Ogre, Brogy, into his body. Bu. In an instant, the whole person changed again and entered the nightmare form. His black hair stood up and his skin color turned a wild blue. The body shape has become extremely exaggerated, the muscles swelled and the veins popped out. The momentum is amazing. He closed his eyes, through the ability of the shadow fruit. Continue to selectively extract the memories of Red Ogre, Brogy. Less than half an hour. William could no longer hold on and returned to his original state. There. The whole person couldn't help but breathe heavily. Listless and full of exhaustion. Not only did he have to bear the rejection caused by the shadow of the giants, but also because of the huge memory, which gave his brain a splitting headache. Even if it is selectively read, those memories far exceed the information obtained from the shadows of dead people such as Swordsman Ryoma and Captain John. After all, the shadow of a dead person only carries a part of the owner's deeper memories during his lifetime. Although I am a little tired, I have gained a lot. William showed a satisfied smile. Although the giant's skills in using hockey are a bit rough, they are not without their own uniqueness. In particular, techniques like Elbaf's spear were specially developed for the giant's huge size. Over the long years, generations of giants have continuously tried and improved. He benefited a lot. That afternoon. A beast of varying sizes, he was tied up and placed in the open space outside the training ground. There were some struggling animals, including some dead animals. Dazzling. The number is probably no less than 500. Please give me flowers. Advertisement. The largest among them is the Brachiosaurus. Sir William, there are almost more than 300 beasts like Velociraptor, Triceratops, saber-toothed tiger, Brachiosaurus. A zombie soldier in charge of statistics came forward and reported. As for the large pterosaurs, there are almost 200 heads. William nodded. The black shadows beneath his feet surged and turned into countless tentacles. Rushed out directly, in the blink of an eye. The beasts were captured alive one after another. One after another, they were penetrated directly through the tinling guy, and they fell there wailing one after another. It's better to save yourself some trouble and get it done in one go. Scanning the animal carcasses present, William directly took out a stack of shadows from his arms. A flash of red light flashed in his eyes, and he directly activated the ability of the shadow fruit. Swiss. Black tentacles danced, bringing up these shadows. They rushed towards the animal carcasses respectively. Is this okay? Brooke's eyes widened. Hundreds of zombies were created at once. That's amazing. Perona was stunned and speechless. In comparison, Lord Moria, whom she regarded as her adoptive father, was simply not comparable. Hiss tilde hiss tilde hiss tilde. Lord William is indeed Lord William. That guy from Moria is really inferior. Hogba Gu was very excited. The more amazing this adult's performance is, doesn't it mean that his choice is more correct? In my name, I will grant you new life. You will forget the past, be loyal to me, and never betray. Without any delay, William directly made a contract with these shadows. As expected, the bound shadows stopped struggling and nodded dully. Obviously, the contract was established. Swipe, the next moment. Shadows that no longer struggle. One after another, they were stuffed into the corpses of those beasts. Soon a horrifying scene happened. Saber-toothed tigers, mammoths, velociraptors, triceratops, Tyrannosaurus rex, Brachiosaurus, pterosaurs, etc. that should have lost their breath of life. These extremely ferocious animals started to move one after another. They all knelt on the ground and lowered their heads towards William. Owner. Chapter 54. Oz's Mace, Mountain Sandbags, 4th update. Half a month later, Prehistoric Island Little Garden. The originally beautiful scenery has become devastated and in a mess. The roars of the beasts echoed endlessly. Huge beasts gathered there, roaring from time to time. Extremely ferocious. But here's the surprise. Most of them still have a heavily armed figure sitting on their backs. Holding knives, guns, sticks, or thermal weapons such as rifles and rocket launchers. Formed the Knights of the Beast. Woo-hoo-hoo. There were also a large number of pterosaurs, soaring and circling in the high altitude. And on their backs, there are also people sitting on them. Even those pterosaurs are extremely fast, perform various difficult and dazzling flying maneuvers in the air. It was still stable and did not fall off. Obviously, 520 is well trained. And on a vast coast. A huge figure with red skin, horns and sharp fangs, standing there like an unattainable demon. What is jaw-dropping is that in its hand it is also holding a shiny black mace that is densely covered with thorns. The exaggerated momentum is intimidating. My scalp feels numb just looking at it. A roaring sound broke through the air. Demon Oz kept swinging his huge mace. Bursts of astonishing wind pressure kept crushing the towering trees around them. On the sea, the waves were undulating, and there were waves. Elbaf's spear Hikoku, next moment, it is imposing. Swinging the exaggerated mace high, It blasted out towards the distant sea. Call, in an instant. The atmosphere was directly crushed, and the roar was abnormal. Buzz. An astonishing shockwave suddenly swept out. It hit the sea in front of it hard. Advertisement. Crashing. Crashing. The sea was boiling and violently turbulent. A huge trench appeared there and could not be recovered for a long time. It makes one break into a cold sweat. Unspeakably shocking. Exaggerated mace. It was filled with hot steam visible to the naked eye. Putting the mace on his shoulder, Demon Oz bared his teeth. Sure enough, compared to swords and other things, weapons like this are more handy. Obviously, he is very satisfied with the new weapon he just obtained. Gulu. As expected of Lord Oz, it's really unbelievably strong. The giant's unique skills have been mastered by them. On the sea, there are huge islands and ships lying there. A huge central castle with a splendid golden bell tower is eye-catching. Looking at this astonishing scene, the zombies present could not help but be a little shocked and speechless. Especially, when they saw the ridiculously huge Demon Oz, dancing with the exaggeratedly large mace that was at least tens of meters long. Everyone subconsciously felt a little numb. Even zombies like them who are not afraid of death. I couldn't bear such a gentle touch. Tisk, tisk, that's really exaggerated. Oh ho ho ho, as expected, this type of weapon is more suitable for that guy Oz. In the past half-month, Lord William has really put in a lot of effort just to forge weapons for him. Hiss tilde hiss tilde hiss tilde. The minerals on this island have almost been dug up by that guy, Wobble. On the training ground nearby, looking at the Devil Oz on the coast from a distance. The cadres such as Perona, Brook, Vanoka, and Hogba Gu who had just finished their morning exercise were all filled with emotion. It was not too surprising that Oz successfully used the giant's Elbaf gun. Because I have seen him more than once these days. Not far away, the Shandia warrior Wappa was sweating profusely and still did not stop training. Lifting extremely heavy dumbbells, gritting his teeth and exercising unremittingly. A few days ago, I witnessed the battle between William and Oz and the two leaders of the giant soldier pirates. I saw such a powerful force. His desire for power is undoubtedly even greater. Desperate to become stronger, harder, on the other side of Prehistoric Island. A roaring sound came from a huge mountain. Advertisement. William himself, who was sweating profusely, had a stern look in his eyes, and kept punching, elbowing, swinging his legs, and kneeling. Persevere, hit the mountain in front of you. I didn't use hockey at all, I just used pure physical strength to train like crazy, and the whole mountain was treated as a sandbag. Even the fists, elbows, knees and other parts were already red, swollen and even bleeding. Still no intention of stopping, it makes people stunned. To actually use the mountain as a sandbag, it's just. Watching William's training, riding a giant pterosaur. Vanoka, who came over from the terror ship, was amazed. Even if it's not the first time I see the other party training like this. But every time I still feel it's a bit exaggerated. I finally understand why Lord William has such amazing strength at such a young age. It's not just that superhuman talent, it is also because of this tenacity and tenacious will. Sir William, whether it is Oz's weapon forging or the training of the Beast Legion and the Flying Force, it has come to an end. The swift pterosaur circled and landed. Vanoka jumped down from above and stepped forward to ask William, "Is it time for us to leave?" "Well, it's almost done." William stopped, shaking the sweat off his head. He didn't care about the bloody redness and swelling on his hands. These days, in addition to his daily training on this island, he also often practices the Elbaf gun of the giant clan with the Demon Oz, the Zombie King. He even used the Shadow Mage to turn him into an axe, and used it as a temporary weapon. It can be said that the gain of 0.9 is not small. Have to say, a special zombie created as his shadow clone. Oz perfectly inherited his talent and his learning ability is quite amazing. After half a month, both he and Oz had almost mastered the giant's special skills. Originally, he would not stay on this island for so long, but considering the exaggerated size of Demon Oz, in order to forge suitable weapons for him, William specially asked the zombie army to explore the prehistoric island. As a result, we found a copper iron mine with relatively mixed composition and not too large reserves. So he let the Shadow Mage possess Wobble. With the ability of munch fruit, the mines are mined and alloys are extracted continuously. A large number of zombie soldiers cooperated, plus Oz's own efforts. Just barely forged the mace, it's really time to leave. Chapter 55 Son of the Devil, Sand Crocodile, open black lens bracket 5th update close black lens bracket. Little ones, let's set sail. Oh, tilde not long after. The crisp, ethereal and melodious golden bells echoed constantly. Following William's order, countless Zombie King soldiers began to get busy. The ship of terror set sail again and slowly sailed away from Prehistoric Island. Lord William, are you going to Bucklow Island next? On the training ground, with the ability to repair fruits. Treating William's inevitable injuries due to high intensity and crazy training. Dr. Hogba Gu was asking there. I should have arrived a long time ago, but something happened one after another along the way to delay me. William nodded, chuckled and said, I'm looking forward to it. Although I don't know how much harvest that treasure map can bring. But that's part of the beauty of treasure hunting adventures. It's like opening a blind box. He 24 tilde he tilde he tilde, is it a treasure? Perona's eyes were shining with anticipation. Not just her, Brook, Vanoka, Hogba Gu and others are no exception. Although they have found the legendary Golden Land and obtained unimaginable starfish gold. But still full of endless interest in treasure hunting. Lord William. At this time, a zombie soldier held a phone bug and trotted over. The black market intelligence dealer you contacted earlier has called. Oh, William raised his eyebrows. Got the phone bug. Without any intention of making small talk, he went straight to the point. Rock, is there any good news? The phone bug simulates an old silhouette. A pair of somewhat cloudy eyes, full of shrewdness, but the price. You know, the target you want to inquire about is the son of a devil that the world government spares no effort to hunt for. I am taking a huge risk. Gotta pay more. The price is easy to negotiate, as long as your information satisfies me. William looked calm and spoke calmly. Advertisement. As an elite agent of CP9, he naturally knows the power of these underground intelligence agents. Therefore, I have already contacted them secretly through other channels. He even deposited a large sum of money with an intelligence agent in advance. Mainly to facilitate long-term cooperation. 2 days ago, she appeared on Cordo Island on the H3 route, seemingly wanting to explore an ancient ruins. The price is negotiated. The other party did not make any further excuses and told the information. I heard that members of CP5 rushed over directly, but failed to catch anyone. But I think she can't run far. I'm very satisfied with your news, William chuckled. In 2 days, given Nico Robin's current situation, he really couldn't run very far. He should be able to find the other person directly. A pleasure to work with. Click, watched William hang up the phone. Perona on the side asked curiously, Lord William, are you looking for the son of the devil? Well, this is a rare all-round talent, William smiled and nodded. For Nico Robin, he is determined to win. Without hesitation, he directly ordered Hogba Gu and others. I want to go out for a while, you continue to move towards Backrow Island. If I find someone, I will go over and meet you. Not to mention special ability users such as Wappa, Perona, and Vanoka. There is only Demon Oz, the strongest zombie, and the zombie army led by him. In the first half of the Grand Line, as long as you don't directly provoke Marine, you can go sideways. What's more, it still has the skin of 7 warlords of the sea. Naturally, he wasn't worried about anything going wrong. Clear. Vanoka, Hogba Gu and others nodded. Everyone knows that Nico Robin, the son of the devil, who was offered a bounty of 79 million belly by the world government at the age of 8, has a special status. It is impossible to directly drive the ship of terror and pass by with great fanfare. After all, they are still in the stage of accumulating strength. Not ready to break up with Marine and officially enter the new world. Is there a record pointer to Cordo Island? William didn't delay. A zombie navigator was directly called. Advertisement. No. But Cordo Island is close to the kingdom of Rolanchini, and we have a permanent record pointer there. The navigator was busy checking the charts and reporting to William. Then give me the record pointer of the Rolanchini kingdom. Yes, Lord William. That afternoon a short rest relieved the fatigue caused by high-intensity training and restored William's physical strength. He directly brought some dry food and fresh water, as well as the permanent record pointer of the Rolanchini kingdom, and left the ship of terror under the watch of Wappa, Perona, Vanoka and others. OSOFT. The black shadow wings fluttered slightly. William soared into the sky, thinking about the distant sky. Nico Robin, I believe we will meet again soon. Looking at the undulating sea, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Thinking back to that beautiful and charming face, he smiled softly. About 4 years ago, William, who had just turned 13. He was sent to West Blue to secretly assassinate a member of the Overlord tribe who had repeatedly spoken out loudly in public, 060 criticizing the world government for its inaction. I happened to encounter Robin who was being chased by CP agents. I killed several CP pursuers and let Robin go. He left a message looking forward to the future meeting between the two parties. In his stunned eyes, then he walked away. Noon the next day. The sun was shining brightly and there was no cloud in the sky. Flying with shadow wings, William, who was tired of travel, rushed to the kingdom of Rolanchini. Swipe. He landed from the deserted coast, changed his appearance, and disguised himself as the swift swordsman Yasuo. Powerful observation hockey. It instantly enveloped the entire small island. I didn't sense the aura of Nico Robin, the son of the devil. Aren't you here? William raised his eyebrows. I asked about nearby islands and bought a few permanent record pointers. When preparing to leave, a merchant ship that had just docked in the port. A rather strong aura caught William's attention. But no one was seen at all. I only had time to see a pool of sand, turning into a small tornado, quietly flying into the distance. William's eyes narrowed and he was surprised. Hey, sand crocodile? Chapter 56 G2 Branch. Nico Robin open black lens bracket first update close black lens bracket Isla Blanca. Adjacent to the kingdom of Rolanchini, it is a town directly governed by the world government. What happened? There haven't been any pirate troubles recently, right? Those guys suddenly appeared here, however, this day. The port of this relatively prosperous town. The residents of those towns and business travelers were looking at the menacing warships on the sea. I couldn't help but feel a little uneasy, on board the large warship headed by. In addition to the seagull flag, the words, G2, are clearly marked. It was announced to the outside that this was a warship of the G2 branch of the base directly under the naval headquarters. Vice Admiral, arrived at Long Island, a Marine Major stood erect and saluted. He reported to the bald old man in front of him who was wearing a brown suit, a cloak of justice, long brown hair, and a somewhat bloated figure. According to CP information, it was suspected that someone saw Nico Robin, the son of the devil, from this morning. A merchant ship disembarked and blended into the town. Oh, Vice Admiral, the base director of MARINE G2 branch, raised his eyebrows. He was leading the Marine fleet and was chasing a group of pirates who had just broken into the Grand Line and were causing trouble along the H3 route. As a result, I received a call from the headquarters, saying that the personnel of CP Cipher Pol had received the news and found that Nico Robin, the son of the devil, wanted by the world government, was nearby, and asked him to personally lead people to arrest him. Nico Robin is not an ordinary criminal, let me know. Gumir came to the bow of the ship, looked at the town ahead, and ordered in a deep voice, seal the port, strictly prohibit any ship from going to sea, search from house to house, and never let her go. All personnel have entered the first level of combat readiness and are preparing to land. On the port, a beautiful figure wearing a cloak and disguising herself, just about to board a merchant ship, looked at the unkind fleet. Without hesitation, he gave up boarding the ship and quietly retreated to the town. Mixed in the crowd. Search me, Tilda. Don't let Nico Robin get away. This woman is very cunning and good at disguise. We must not let her escape. Any suspicious target will be arrested directly. Not long after there were some riots in the town. A Marine personnel armed with live ammunition landed one after another and began to search. In a deserted alley, wearing a black cloak, advertisement. Escaped from a group of Marines, he leaned against the wall and breathed a sigh of relief. Under the cloak, a gorgeous face was revealed. Stop. At this time, a dozen Marines came running over. I saw a suspicious figure wearing a cloak, shouting loudly. Shave. Nico Robin's expression changed. Without hesitation, he stepped hard. Brush. The whole person was like an afterimage. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the sight of those Marines. Disappeared? Am I dazzled? The person just now was obviously still here? The Marines who had just raised their guns and were about to block the opponent couldn't help but look at each other. That was sixth form just now. Marine Ensign, the leader, reacted, a little shocked. Obviously, he recognized the 16 advanced physical skills that only a few elites in Marine can access. He took the lead and chased after her, shouting loudly without looking back. No, she is definitely Nico Robin. Chase her. Notify the higher-ups immediately. Yes, and at this time, no one found out. The other side of the island. A black shadow flew over and landed in the deserted wilderness. Oh, looking at the fleet forming a formation on the sea, preparing to block the island, William raised his eyebrows. Marine? Interesting. But, finally my efforts were not in vain. I found you. Close your eyes slightly. The powerful observation hockey directly enveloped the entire island. He instantly locked onto the aura that was somewhat familiar, but much stronger than 3 or 4 years ago, and confirmed the other party's identity. DIADIG, on the rooftop of a 3-story building. A beautiful figure kept stepping through the air, bursts of smoke erupted from beneath its feet, and landed on the rooftop. He immediately hid in a corner. Nico Robin breathed a sigh of relief. He crossed his hands and closed his eyes, dazzled. While the petals were flying, eyeballs suddenly and silently popped up on the walls in many hidden directions of the building. There, he secretly observed the Marines coming and going, constantly searching around. Ah Tilda, have you mastered moonwalk yet? Advertisement? There was a chuckle. Robin, who was using his ability to monitor Marines' movements and was ready to evacuate at any time, was suddenly startled. My heart skipped a beat and I quickly opened my eyes. Immediately, his pupils shrank sharply. A tall figure wearing a black windbreaker appeared in front of me. Tilda Lulu Noir. She did not hesitate and crossed her hands. 6 hands suddenly grew on William's body. He strangled his arms and head tightly and twisted him backwards. Iron body. William looked sharply. The muscles all over his body were tense and instantly became like steel, unable to be shaken. Robin's expression changed. No matter how you use your flower fruit ability, try your best to control it. Neither of them could twist the opponent's steel-like body. What, you haven't seen me for a few years and you want to kill me when we meet? Looking at the beautiful figure in front of him, William chuckled. Hear the words. Robin couldn't help but be stunned. Subconsciously staring at the man in front of him, his pupils couldn't help but shrink. Brush. He loosened his hands. The arms that bound William turned into petals and disappeared. Hello, Wong Wong. Obviously, they recognized each other. It's you. Robin took a deep breath, a little unbelievable. Long time no see. I'm very skilled in using the 6 styles. Looking at the devil's son who was much more mature than 4 years ago and exuding an alluring charm, William smiled and said, It seems that you haven't been lazy in the past few years. Sorry, I was in a hurry just now and didn't expect it to be you. Before the two of them could exchange greetings, someone appeared in the sky. A seaweed was circling back and forth, calling out. He seemed to have noticed them, reminding Marine. Annoying guy. William frowned and flicked, finger pistol. In Robin's miniature gaze, an invisible airblade shot out like lightning. He accurately shot the Haidongqing, causing a bloody flower. It whined and fell down. Chapter 57 The Worst Traitor in History. Open black lens bracket. Second update. Close black lens bracket. How? On the rooftop. He looked at Robin, who was staring blankly at him. William opened his arms and chuckled. Aren't you happy to see you again, old friend? Are we friends? Looking at William in front of him. Robin came back to his senses and bit his lip gently. The closed heart couldn't help but ripples a little. Why are you here? She looked at William's handsome face and couldn't help joking. I heard that you have betrayed the world government. You can't be sent to catch me, right? Compared with the childishness 4 years ago, the man in front of me has matured a lot and become more spiritual. 4 years ago, if it hadn't been for this man, she would have been captured by the world government. Before the other party left, he directly threw her a 6-position training manual, giving her the ability to protect herself. Only then was he able to evade the pursuit of Marine and CP time and time again. She has been looking forward to seeing each other again in the future. Unexpectedly, the two people reunited under such circumstances. As early as 4 months ago, she had already seen the news in the newspaper about Obask William causing trouble in Eni's lobby and betraying the world government. I also saw a wanted warrant for the other party with a direct reward of 200 million belly. The shocking news really shocked her. 750 some couldn't believe it. Surround this building, we must not let her escape. At this time, due to Haidongqing's reminder, Marine nearby reacted quickly and immediately surrounded the building. There are other Marines around who heard the news and are coming over one after another. They found us. Robin's expression changed when he heard the movement. It doesn't matter, no matter how many bugs there are, they're just bugs. William shrugged his shoulders and didn't care. I just saw it. They're the Marine branch of the G2 branch directly under the naval headquarters. Looking at the specifications of the warships and the size of the fleet, the person who took the lead is probably the naval headquarters vice admiral. Robin was a little anxious and reminded him there. Just a Marine vice admiral, not an admiral of naval headquarters. William stepped forward. Advertisement. He caressed her pretty face and said with a chuckle. We haven't seen each other for a few years, and she has become even more beautiful. Let's get rid of them and find a place to chat. After hesitating for a moment, Robin nodded. Seeing that William was confident, he gradually calmed down. Although, Sif, I don't know why the other party is so confident. The person in front of me is after all a strong man with a bounty of more than 200 million belly. In particular, his eyebrows reveal a calmness that belies his age. I believe it's not that reckless. There are quite a few people. William looked relaxed. When I arrived at the edge of the rooftop, I looked down at the Marine personnel who were coming in a steady stream, as well as the panicked tourists and people who were running hastily into the distance. Robin was about to say something. William's eyes sharpened suddenly. Buzz. An invisible wave swept out of him in an instant. Center it. From this building the port is less than a kilometer away. The tyrannical conqueror's hockey impacted in all directions. A Marine, businessman, civilian. Everyone's body was shaken violently, as if their brains had been hit by a powerful mental shock. Their eyes turned white, they were foaming at the mouth, and they fell to the ground one after another. In the blink of an eye, Marines were supposed to rush over and surround the building. Most of them fell on the street. UXU, what happened? I almost lost consciousness. Damn it, is he a person with some kind of ability? Within the town, a few Marine Commodore and Rear Admiral were safe and sound. But looking at the fallen Marines and people around them, their faces were full of shock. There are also those school officers from the headquarters who are usually very capable, staggering and barely maintaining consciousness. Didn't fall down directly. Hiss, look at this horrific scene. Robin couldn't help but his pupils shrank, and he lost his voice in shock. How is it possible? They all fainted. Advertisement, don't be so surprised, it's just a trivial trick. William shrugged and said with a chuckle. The real trouble is not these miscellaneous fish, but the ones that haven't fallen yet. Stunning thousands of people at once is no small trick. Robin took a deep breath and looked at William blankly. This man who was 5 or 6 years younger than her, yet was offered a bounty of 200 million belly by the world government, was actually so powerful. No wonder he was so confident just now, full of confidence. Damn. Conqueror's hockey. At the same time, not far away, the base commander of the G2 branch, Vice Admiral, who was about to rush over, noticed Haidongqing's reminder. His face changed drastically. Not caring about anything else, he ran over. Scattered around, there were about 30 or 40 generals and officers who maintained their combat effectiveness and did not faint. People gathered together one after another and followed Gumir. Gumir arrived in a hurry. Looking at the figure standing on the rooftop with Robin, his pupils shrank sharply. He couldn't help but his expression changed drastically. Hell William, and Nika Robin. What? Hell William. Gulu, He is the CP9 traitor Obask William who killed the top executive of CP9 and the top leaders of world government, caused a big fuss about Enies Lobby's defection, and was offered a bounty of 200 million belly by world government? He mastered all 6 moves at the age of 13, and is known as the strongest CP9 genius in Enies Lobby in the past 800 years, as famous as Rob Lucci. This man who is making a big fuss at Enies Lobby is considered by the CP to be the worst traitor in history. Why is he here? There's no mistake, it's exactly the same as the one on the reward list, it's him. Devil's son, Nika Robin is here too. A Marine officer who was still conscious came one after another. Looking at Hell William standing with Nika Robin on the rooftop, they couldn't help but be shocked. Someone else took out a stack of reward lists from his arms and flipped through them quickly. Confirming the identities of the 2 people. Vice Admiral Gumir, I didn't expect that a big shot like you would actually know me. That's such an honor. Looking at Gumir below, who had a big belly and was wearing a cloak of justice, William naturally recognized him and smiled, said. When he was in CP9, I have looked up personnel information about Marine. Not only Gumil, the commander of the G2 branch, but also most of the named officers in the entire Marine Corps, William has paid attention to them. Even more, it's not just spies placed outside by CP. There are even many spies sent out by naval headquarters to lurk among the pirates in the New World. William knew everything. Chapter 58 William. If you can't do it, let Admiral come. Open black lens bracket 3rd update close black lens bracket. Conqueror's hockey, on the street. Looking at the chaos all around, the Marine personnel fainted there. Looking up at the 2 figures on the rooftop, or staring at William himself. I didn't expect the rumors to be true. I really underestimated you. What do you want a guy like you to do here? He looked evilly, holding the katana that had already been unsheathed, pointing directly at William above, and asked in a deep voice. Do you want to get involved in the ancient war through Nika Robin, a scholar of Ohara? What? On the rooftop. Robin was shocked when he heard this. Subconsciously looking at William beside him, his heart sank. He pursed his lips slightly, his eyes a little complicated. In the end, everyone wants to take advantage of themselves. Will she be alone after all? No need to talk nonsense, I will take Nika Robin away. William had no intention of responding, but looked down at the hostile Gumil, smiled and said, Can you please get out of the way? It can't be done. As long as I'm here, you can't even think of leaving with Nile. Holding the blade, looking directly at William above. Gumil's eyes were stern and he spoke coldly. Want to stop me? William looked at Gumir, the naval headquarters vice admiral, and shook his head directly. You can't do it, let the admiral come. Robin on the side heard this and couldn't help but feel confident. Looking at William in astonishment, it's really confident enough. The naval headquarters vice admiral, who is the supreme commander of the C2 branch, is not looked down upon, and the Marine admiral, who represents the highest combat capability of the naval headquarters, comes in person. *hole, too arrogant. Damn guy. A mere traitor from CP9 actually dares to look down on us. The Marine generals and officers gathered there, who maintained their combat effectiveness, were all furious and gnashing their teeth. Looking at William on the rooftop, he glared angrily. Stop talking nonsense there, you stinking brat. William's contemptuous tone. Even Gumir couldn't help but be angered. With a strong pressure under his feet, his whole body jumped up. Holding 2 swords in his hands, he rose into the air on the moonwalk and rushed towards William. When Lousy was fighting the pirates on the sea, you were not even born yet, Obask William. DIG. Don't wait for Gumil to rush in. William showed no sign of weakness and stepped forward to greet him. His eyes were full of contempt and extremely arrogant. Then the reason why a mediocre character like you can survive until now is because you are self-aware and don't dare to provoke those big pirates at all, right? But it's a pity that now that you are old, you have poor eyesight. If you lose, you will die. Tempest kick hyphenation point Landon. The words have not yet finished. In the shocked eyes of Robin and Marine advertisement, he was filled with murderous intent and kicked out with his right foot like lightning. Whoosh, the atmosphere was torn apart directly. A huge light green slash suddenly broke through the air. He blasted at Gumir, who changed his color in shock. Unstoppable. What? Gumil's hair stood up. The 2 swords staggered and blocked immediately. Kang. The powerful and heavy slash directly knocked him down in midair. The whole person kept retreating violently, causing the ground to crack. Barely able to steady his body. Open it for me. The muscles in his arms were tense. Gritting his teeth, he lifted it with all his strength. The astonishing slash was blasted into the distance. In the disbelieving eyes of those Marine officers, several buildings in a row were cut diagonally like tofu, and the cuts were extremely smooth. Loud noises were heard, and the cut floors slid down one after another. Large amounts of smoke and dust billowed into the air. It makes people burst into cold sweat. It's unbelievable, it's really, incredibly strong. This is an exaggerated scene. Even Robin couldn't help but widen his eyes and was speechless. 6 forms, are they really that strong? In the past 4 years, I have been forced to hide and flee from the pursuit of the world government. But even most of the time is spent on archaeology, constantly exploring ancient ruins and looking for historical texts. Trying to unravel the blank 100 years, history and fulfill the last wish of Ohara scholars. Privately, I still try my best to take out a certain amount of time and persist in practicing hard in secret. In particular, the 6th-style manual that William threw to her had his own annotations and experiences on it, which made her practice more effective and many problems could be solved easily. With his extraordinary mind and talent, he has already mastered most of the 6 moves. Tempest Kick, she also barely mastered it, but that power. Exhibited with William, it's a world of difference. What kind of monster is this? Is he really only 17? Is this the true strength of Hell William? Staring blankly at the collapsed buildings. Looking at the lower half of the floors that were still intact, the smooth cuts on them. One Marine officer swallowed. Everyone couldn't help but shed a cold sweat. I just feel my scalp is numb. Don't be intimidated, idiots. Advertisement. ***10. Take a deep breath. Gumir's face was solemn and he was scolding. Full of solemn eyes, he stared at William who had just walked onto the street with a relaxed expression. He no longer had the previous contempt. He is known as the strongest CP9 genius in Eni's lobby in 800 years. With such strength, of course. I will deal with Hell William. You are responsible for catching Nika Robin. You must not let her escape. For a while, the morale of each Marine officer was lifted. He barely calmed down and responded loudly. Oh, looking at Vice Admiral in front of him, William was full of fun. Do you think you can stop me? Don't underestimate the Vice Admiral of Naval Headquarters, Hell William. Vice Admiral shouted angrily. Shave, he stepped hard. Holding 2 knives in hand, he rushed forward suddenly. The extremely sharp blade, gleaming with cold light, struck hard at William in front. William looked calm, both fists wrapped around hockey. Without showing any weakness, he started a confrontation with him. It seems that there is no concern whether Nika Robin will fall into crisis. Up! Get Nika Robin. At the same time, a Naval Headquarters Rear Admiral holds a katana. He immediately began to command the officers who still retained consciousness under the impact of Conqueror's hockey and were constantly gathering from all directions. Among them, there were many Marine officers who were not too weak and quickly woke up one after another. In a short period of time, there were already hundreds of people. Robin, who was watching the battle above, looked grim. Looking at some Marines, they were holding rifles and rocket launchers and pointed them at themselves. Crossing his hands, he decisively activated Flower Fruit's ability. Twirling flower. The petals are flying. On the body of a Marine officer. Arms sprouted one after another and wrapped tightly around them. Grabbing their limbs, necks and other parts. Hand? Grown from the body. Damn it, what the hell is this? Let go. B**************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** Robin's devil fruit ability. However, I was completely unprepared to give these Marines too many opportunities to resist. I saw Robin's intertwined hands, and their palms suddenly clasped together. I'm sorry, I don't want to be caught yet. The arms that grew out of the Marine personnel directly grabbed their bodies and twisted them mercilessly. Chapter 59. Robin's Strength, Tempest Kick Guy, 4th Update. What? OKG. Kilogram. Chaos on the streets. Accompanied by scattered joints breaking, the sound makes people's teeth sore. There were bursts of shrill screams, and Shah-Ran stood up. This is really a terrifying scene. Many Marine generals and officers who were a little far away and had not yet been targeted could not help but be shocked. Some couldn't believe it as they looked at their companions whose body joints were broken, and then looked at Nico Robin above the rooftop. I couldn't help but feel a chill coming out of me. Some scalp tingling. Damnable woman. Don't be afraid, everyone, this is the ability of flower fruit. It's not a big deal, just use the iron body to defend. If those hands are injured, the body will also be injured. This is the weakness of her ability. There were a dozen Marine generals and officers who had mastered some of the 6 forms. They immediately tensed up their muscles and performed this physical skill specially used for defense. Chi suddenly became powerful and his body became extremely hard. Although the arms that grew out of the body tried to twist the body, it was still as solid as steel and could not be easily twisted. And some people directly pointed out the weakness of flower fruit. Apparently Marine has already done relevant intelligence work. Huh? Iron body? Robin looked at the Marine officers present and raised his eyebrows. When the opponent wants to use the sword to chop the arms growing on his body. The ability was removed without hesitation. Fire. Use a bazooka. Blow up that building for me. Soon, with several powerful and experienced Marine Rear Admiral in command there. The well-trained Marines who came one after another launched a direct counterattack. They raised their guns and pointed them at Nico Robin on the rooftop, and they all pulled the triggers. Dist. Det. Heavy bullets, it keeps pouring out. Accompanied by a few scattered rockets. Accompanied by bursts of loud noises. Fires shot into the sky and thick smoke billowed. Waves of astonishing airwaves swept across the place. Moonwalk, however, mid-air, a beautiful figure had already appeared out of nowhere. The whole person walked through the air and landed on a 2-story building opposite. Unscathed. There she is, damn, it's Moonwalk. Advertisement, why does she have the 6 styles that only a few Marine officers are qualified to master? Stop talking nonsense. Everyone, come on, don't let her run away. We must not let this woman go. Watching Nico Robin rushing out in midair on the moonwalk, safe and sound. All the Marines present were shocked. Some couldn't believe it. Hell, William is just the traitor of CP9. Why does even Nico Robin, the son of the devil, know such advanced physical skills as the sixth form? But without hesitation, they all raised their swords, guns and cannons and attacked with murderous intent. Endless. 30 rounds of flowers, looking at Marine rushing forward reluctantly, ready to fire. Robin crossed his hands and activated his ability directly. Finger pistol. One arm at a time. Suddenly sprouted from these Marines' bodies. Moreover, the index finger stabbed out like a bullet. Chi. Og. Blood splattered. A Marine screamed. The white jade finger penetrated his body mercilessly, and he fell into a pool of blood. But there were also those who had quick reactions and good strength, and decisively used their iron body again to block the fatal blow. Each and every one of them had cruel looks on their faces, ready to cut off those arms. But I didn't expect Nico Robin to be so cunning, so he gave up decisively when he failed. Before the blade fell, they had already turned into countless petals and dissipated. Sorry, I haven't mastered iron body, Robin smiled slightly. She is not fond of fighting, she fights and then retreats. Without hesitation, I walked on the moonwalk again and headed towards another building. Obviously, she has already possessed considerable strength, but she has always kept a low profile and hid her clumsiness. As she continued to practice the 6 moves, her physical fitness continued to improve, and Paramecia flower fruit's abilities became more and more skillful, and she developed many new moves. But except for using physical skills such as shaving and moonwalk to evade capture, Robin rarely uses the 6 styles to fight the enemy. Because he was put on a bounty of 79 million Baileys by the world government at the age of 8, and he spared no effort to hunt him down. He has experienced the ups and downs of human kindness, experienced countless betrayals, and has seen through the greed of human nature. Continuously growing in adversity and setbacks, his mind becomes more mature and cautious. She has seen with her own eyes the strength of the Admiral of Headquarters and how terrifying it is. Naturally, it is clear that if she openly shows her strength in front of world government personnel, she will definitely attract stronger Marine or CP agents. It will be more troublesome then. Therefore, he has always deliberately hidden his strength. Unless absolutely necessary, he would not show his strength in front of others easily. Therefore, her bounty has remained at 79 million Baileys, unchanged. But in today's situation, it's obviously impossible not to be more serious. Keng. Chang. Sparks sputter. The blade and the fist seal were clashing together. Gumir, who was fighting with William, caught a glimpse of this scene. I couldn't help but be shocked and couldn't believe it. That woman, how is it possible? Advertisement. Why does this woman Nico Robin know the 6 styles? Moreover, it seems that he is already very skilled. This cannot be accomplished in a day or two. Hey, you're surprised, aren't you? I taught you. William bared his teeth, full of amusement. But under Gumil's horrified gaze, he laughed ferociously. But are you sure you still have time to pay attention to this? Finger pistol Gatling gun. In an instant, he suddenly launched an offensive. The fingers wrapped around Hockey turned into afterimages that filled the sky, and holes shot out. Like a dense barrage of bullets, it attacked Vice Admiral crazily, whose expression changed greatly in front of him. It's so dizzying that you can't react at all. $19. The 2 swords kept swinging. Block the finger pistol that keeps attacking. Somewhat confused. Why is that the Vice Admiral of Naval Headquarters? William was sarcastic there. Launching such an offensive still seems to be easy. The strength between the two is a matter of judgment. Don't get carried away. The somewhat embarrassed Gumir was angered. With a step of his feet, he retreated violently and distanced himself from William. Don't wait for it to come without mercy. The 2 swords were waved out boldly. Dual sword style whirlwind slash. A cold light flashed. 1.7 sharp blade. A swift trajectory was drawn. Whoosh, whoosh. 2 shocking slashes. Like a whirlwind, spinning violently. Cut hard. Hey, this looks cool. William's figure soared into the air, turning 360 degrees at an incredible speed. The right foot swept out smoothly, but unfortunately, it's not enough. Foot guy bird. Shu Yi, a loud roar broke through the air. A huge light green slash shot out like lightning. In Gumir's shrinking gaze, in the blink of an eye, the slash turned into a huge ferocious bird, fluttering its wings and swooping down. There was a loud bang. No surprises. 2 astonishing whirlwind strikes were directly defeated. The huge flying bird's attack was unstoppable, tearing apart the atmosphere, and its momentum continued unabated. He hit Gumir hard, whose expression changed greatly. Chapter 60 Crush. The death of Gumir, first update. Sparks flew. The sound of metal clashing was endless. The huge bird slash was unstoppable. Even though Gumir's double swords were wrapped around Hockey and he tried to block it. But he was still pressed hard by the incomparable impact force and crashed into the building behind. Boom. The amazing bird slash continued to move. One building after another was cut open mercilessly. The roar continued and the smoke and dust rolled. It made people sweat. What? Gummier Vice Admiral? How is it possible? This horrifying scene. The Marine officers changed their faces and screamed. They never thought that the experienced Jimmel, who they thought was a great man, would be suppressed so easily. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive, it's too strong. Even Robin. Looking at the overwhelming bird slash, he couldn't help but be dumbfounded. No wonder William was so arrogant just now, saying that the Vice Admiral of Naval Headquarters was not good enough and wanted the Marine Admiral to come over. Obviously, Gummier, the Vice Admiral of Marine, was not a match at all. A*24, damn black prison, go to hell, at this moment. 2 Marine officers rushed up directly, staring at William, who was hovering in the air on moonwalk and had not yet landed. Without hesitation, he pointed the rocket launcher at him. Gritting his teeth and pulling the trigger. Swish, swish, 2 rockets broke through the air. Fires shot up into the sky, smoke and dust rolled up. Fly finger pistol. In an instant, 2 air blades shot out like lightning. Accurately, they instantly pierced the hearts of the 2 Marines, bringing up a blood flower. Ah! The 2 figures screamed and fell directly. The Marines present couldn't help but shrink their pupils. Some chills came straight out. Gurgle, that monster. Looking at the figure that walked out of the explosion unscathed. All of them swallowed their saliva, with horror and fear in their eyes. I just felt their scalps tingling. Look, shave and moonwalk, this is how they're used. William turned his head. Looking at Robin, who was watching him on the rooftop of a 2-story building not far away, he said with a chuckle. The next moment, swish, he pressed his feet, and the whole person turned into a residual image. Advertisement, he rushed out like lightning, Death Razor. In a flash, his legs were already wrapped around hockey. It kept flowing like a flying soccer flower. Swoosh, in the air, a sharp trajectory that was almost invisible to the naked eye rose up. A flash of cold light passed by. The terrifying trajectory was as fast as lightning. In the horrified eyes of those Marines, it came in an instant. There was no time to block or dodge. KG. Blood splashed, accompanied by screams. The sharp cold light was unstoppable, even if there were several powerful Marine officers trying to block it. They still couldn't defend, let alone avoid it. Pa, because bursts of explosions continued in the air. William's attack was not just a straight line, but it turned left and right. Like a ghostly trajectory, unpredictable, chi. In a moment, it had already passed through their bodies. One figure after another fell directly into a pool of blood. The bodies were separated. It's scary, hiss. Witnessing this bloody and horrific scene, Robin's pupils shrank sharply, and he couldn't help but take in a breath of cold air and feel a chill running down his spine. If she faced this offensive, she might not be able to dodge it either. Will be torn directly. Heads fell to the ground. Well, it's almost done, there's only one left. William's figure appeared. Step into the atmosphere and land steadily. His expression was relaxed, his face was not red, and he was out of breath. Obviously, the offensive just now was not stressful at all for him, and it didn't take much effort. Obask William, in the ruins hundreds of meters away. Gummier, covered in blood, rushed up. Looking at this bloody scene, my eyes were filled with tears, and I shouted, A*hole, I'm going to kill you. Shave. He stepped hard, showing amazing speed. He rushed in front of William like an afterimage. The 2 swords wrapped around hockey and swung wildly. The sound of gold and iron clashing continues. Advertisement. William easily blocked Gummier's attack. He looked directly at the Marine Vice Admiral, his mouth full of sarcasm and disdain. What? The dignified Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral is so out of control. But it's a pity that Fanrin can't change the strength gap between you and me. William stepped down. His figure was like lightning and he disappeared in front of Gummier in an instant. Finger pistol lightning. Kang, Gummier's hair stood up. Relying on observation hockey's prediction, he narrowly turned around and blocked the finger pistol with a knife, which suddenly attacked as fast as lightning. I said, if you lose, you will die, another word came to my ears. But not before Gummier's pupils dilated. The blade in his hand was about to strike out in anger. Brad Williams' figure disappeared again like a ghost. The next moment, suddenly he came to his senses. Kang. Sparks sputter. William, who appeared there instantly, put his fists together. A frightening momentum could not help but rise. This move is from the 6th form. You guy. Gummier's pupils shrank sharply, feeling intense uneasiness. Although he was angry just now, he didn't really lose his mind directly. Without hesitation, he stepped hard, about to retreat violently. It's useless, it's time to end. 603 bursts of afterimages. William follows him everywhere, full of murderous intent. 6 King Gun. 2 fist seals close together, entwining and flowing armament hockey, which is not weak, condensed with unparalleled fluctuations. It hit Gummier's crossed defensive swords. In an instant, extremely terrifying power blasted out. Boom. Gummier's pupils dilated. An unparalleled shockwave went straight through the intertwined blades. It hit him from the air. Ako. His face was distorted and he was vomiting blood. His eyes were bulging, revealing endless pain and despair. Boom. Boom. The already somewhat tattered suit fell apart. The extremely powerful force penetrated from the chest through the back, leaving a shocking hole. It was as if a huge mountain had hit and crushed him hard. All the bones in his body were ruthlessly shattered by the terrifying impact. Consciousness fell into endless darkness at this moment. It flew out like a cannonball, building after building. It was blasted through ruthlessly, raising large amounts of smoke and dust. The scene is shocking. Robin, who had witnessed the whole process, opened his jewel-like eyes in shock. The mouth was slightly opened, somewhat speechless. Is this the true strength of Hell William? How terrifying. Chapter 61 Robin's Gratitude, second update, off. Ended the battle. Powerful observation Haki. It was confirmed that Gumiel, the supreme commander of the G2 branch directly under naval headquarters, has lost his life. A Marine Vice Admiral died, and he was also the base commander of the G2 branch. Tomorrow's headlines will probably see the bounty being raised again. William looked calm, not complacent. With his current strength, even without using the fruit ability, Vice Admiral, an elite member of the naval headquarters, is obviously no longer a threat to him. If it was a few months ago, it might have taken a little more effort. But now he has made great progress not only in his physical skills these days. Even Conqueror's Haki has made a breakthrough in quality. Day after day of training and practice, I am becoming more and more proficient. Armament Haki, in particular, has mastered the technique of external emission, which is Wanakuna's emission. Combined with the 6 King gun he developed, the power is even higher. Even if the 6 King gun was not used at full strength just now, its power is not comparable to the 6 King gun mastered by Rob Lucci, a CP9 genius. It can easily shatter the bones and internal organs of the opponent's body. Blast it into patties. Swipe. Qianli's figure jumped down from the rooftop. Came in front of him. Looking around, he hesitated to speak. How? Looking at the somewhat bloody streets. William raised his eyebrows and looked at her with a smile. Can't bear it. That doesn't mean. Robin shook his head slightly. Although she doesn't like killing, she doesn't have a good impression of Marine who, as a lackey of the world government, destroyed her hometown, Ohara, and has been hunting her down over the years. Now that it's settled, let's go. This is not the place to talk. William shrugged and led the way, but Robin did not follow him immediately, staring at William's figure. Don't think so much. William's calm voice came into her ears. Whether you believe it or not, anyone in this sea may take advantage of you, but moths will not tilde. Because it's not needed. For a moment, Robin was shocked. He looked at the tall figure with complicated eyes and followed him subconsciously. It's Hell William and Nika Robin. Damn bastards. Shoot me and kill them. Has everyone else been wiped out? Don't let them get close. Fire. On the port. Advertisement on a warship docked there. The expression of Marine, who was left behind, changed drastically, and he recognized the identities of William and Robin. Without hesitation, the bombardment started. BB. Det. A loud roar broke through the air. Accompanied by intensive gunfire, scattered artillery shells kept coming. Tempest kick. Dodging several incoming bullets, Robin's right foot was like lightning and he suddenly swept out. Wah! A light green slash shot through the air. It directly tore apart 2 incoming shells. Their power was greatly reduced, and they exploded in midair like inferior dumb bombs. There was billowing smoke. These guys are really enthusiastic. Turning his head slightly to one side, he dodged the hail of bullets. Buzz, looking at the warship ahead, William's eyes narrowed. An invisible wave swept out directly, thump thump thump. On the nearest warship, hundreds of Marine personnel responsible for staying behind turned their eyes white one after another and fell there. Is this the Conqueror's Haki that Vice Admiral mentioned? Robin was surprised. Not long. The two boarded the medium-sized warship and set sail directly. Throwing the stunned Marines into the sea, driving the warship, he slowly sailed away from the island. Bombardment. 158. We must not let them escape. Sink them, by my. On the sea. Looking at the menacing Marine warships that began to gather together, I wanted to pursue them relentlessly. They even adjusted their muzzles and fired continuously in an attempt to sink the warship they were on. Troublesome guy. Why don't you realize the gap? William's eyes were cold. Without hesitation, the whole person jumped up high. Advertisement in an instant, his right foot kicked out violently like lightning. Tempest kick hyphenation point Landon. Ost. The roaring sound in the air continued. One after another, huge slashes appeared out of thin air. Without mercy, it bombarded several warships in different directions. Destroy the ancients. One warship after another was cut into pieces mercilessly. Slowly sinking to the bottom of the sea, a large number of Marines screamed in panic and struggled to escape on the sea surface. The warships that William snatched were put to good use. It's really unbelievably strong. Looking at this scene, Robin couldn't help but take a deep breath. He turned around and stared at the young and handsome figure. She felt a little confused. It's unbelievable. Are you really only 17 years old? Have to say, the gap between people is really too big. He already had such strength at the age of 17, and it was unimaginable to give him more time to grow. To what extent can it be achieved? Maybe, better than the general at naval headquarters. Robin secretly guessed. She had seen Admiral Aokiji take action with her own eyes. That overwhelming power has left him with shadows and nightmares. Every time I think of the enemies I might face, I can't help but feel a little breathless. But she felt that even the Marine Admiral of the same period would not be more powerful than this man. Haven't you seen it? William asked with a smile. It's not like the other party has never seen him before when he was 13 years old. That's right. Looking at the young and handsome figure in front of him. I think back to that young man 4 years ago who was a little immature but also calm and handsome beyond his age. At this moment, the two figures gradually overlapped and wandered together. He pulled down the hood of his cloak, revealing a young and beautiful face. Robin smiled. But I didn't expect you to be so powerful. No wonder you were able to escape unscathed even after causing trouble in Eni's lobby, one of the 3 major agencies of the world government. Thank you for saving me again. She looked at William, full of indescribable gratitude. If it hadn't been for this man, she would have been captured by the world government, or imprisoned in the legendary world's largest deep-sea prison, or directly executed. Chapter 62 Ancient Weapon? The Historical Truth, Update 3? No, the last time I saved you, maybe it was just a whim. On the warship slowly leaving. Face Robin's sincere thanks. Looking at this beautiful and gentle elder sister, William shook his head gently and said with a smile. But this time, it has a purpose. Stop standing around, sit down and talk. He sat down casually on the steps at the bow of the ship. He motioned for Robin to sit down and talk. Purpose? Robin was stunned. But thinking about what the other party just said, I felt a little relieved. Looking at William, who was sitting there with a calm expression, he was a little surprised and bit his lip. You also want me to help you interpret the historical text? Do I know the legendary ancient music? No, I told you, I never thought of using you to do those things. William waved his hand, looking at Robin sitting in front of him. He did not pretend, but smiled and said directly, but that's not that I don't have ambition, but that I don't need it at all. Robin was silent. Looking at him, said nothing. In this world, there are only truly ambitious people. Who wouldn't be interested in the ancient weapon? It's the legendary power that can destroy the world. You don't believe it, do you? See this. William smiled lightly and said bluntly. When I was in CP9, I checked your experience over the years. You have joined various forces, but no matter what kind of job, you can do it. 063 is easily competent and handles it in an orderly manner. You are a true genius, not only an excellent archaeologist, but also have management skills that no one else has. Looking at Robin in front of him, he said directly, after leaving world government, I have formed my own power. Can you come and help me? Is this your purpose? Robin was stunned. I never expected that the other party would come here specifically to find me for this purpose. She stared at William closely, pursed her lips and said, as a former member of the CP, you should know very well how special and sensitive my identity is. How dangerous it is to take me in. Aren't you afraid of causing unnecessary trouble? Said. Subconsciously she clenched her fists. With a bitter look on his face, he said loudly, the world government will not let go of any person or force related to me. Of course I know, advertisement, William said nonchalantly. As you said, I killed my boss, and even made a big fuss in Eni's lobby, one of the 3 major agencies of the world government, which is said to have been unbreakable by anyone for 800 years. In terms of the badness of the situation, as far as the world government is concerned, I have committed an unprecedented felony and am an unpardonable traitor. Especially as a member of CP9, I know too many dirty secrets of the world government. That's different. Robin pursed his lips slightly. There was a hint of complexity in his eyes. If it were anyone else, she would be smart enough to keep doubts in her heart. Pretentiously and submissively, waiting for the other party to reveal his flaws one day, or find an opportunity to sneak away quietly. But for this man who helped him time and time again. After all, she still had some illusions and couldn't help but want to get to the bottom of it. And, do you think I will believe you easily? No, you can always trust me. William looked calm. Holding that beautiful face gently, looking directly into those jewel-like eyes, he smiled and said, if I told you the whereabouts of the ancient weapon, I would have known it for a long time. Do you believe it? Except for the most mysterious Uranus. Uranus is suspected to be the national treasure of celestial dragons. He naturally knew the whereabouts of the other 2 ancient weapons, Pluton and Poseidon. I really didn't think about using the other person to find it for myself. What? Robin's pupils shrank sharply. Some looked at each other in disbelief. She pursed her lips and shook her head decisively. It's impossible, I'm sorry, I can't believe it. I think you should recognize it, right? William was not annoyed either. With a smile on his face, he let go of Luo Ding. Without saying any more, he took out a photo from his arms and handed it to the other party. He knew very well that the girl in front of him had had to flee alone since she was 8 years old. During this period, he experienced countless betrayals and fully experienced the horror of human nature. Under the endless pursuit of the world government, she was forced to hide in the chaotic underground world and survive by constantly betraying others. CEAB. That pure and kind heart has been scarred. He has become as self-isolated as a hedgehog and can no longer trust others easily. It will take time after all for her to open her heart and believe in herself again. This is the text of history. I subconsciously took the photo. Robin's eyes narrowed sharply as he screamed, "Advertisement." He looked at William in shock and said, "Have you ever encountered a historical text?" "There is currently a piece on my ship, and this is the photo taken from it." William shrugged. "I also know the whereabouts of some other historical stone tablets." Robin ignored the shock. "I couldn't wait to read the historical text and photos on the paper." But soon, she looked horrified and looked at the man in front of her in disbelief. "Do you know how to interpret historical texts?" No wonder she thought so, because the information above clearly recorded the whereabouts of the ancient weapon Poseidon. In addition, William had so vowed previously that he would not use her, saying that it was not necessary at all. Robin naturally thinks so. "No, I don't know anything about historical texts." William waved his hand. "No, I once accidentally obtained a shabby handbook, which was suspected to have been left by other archaeologists who broke into the Grand Line in the past to find the truth about the blank 100 years. This is recorded in it." "What?" Robin was filled with excitement. He hurriedly grabbed William's arm, his eyes full of longing. "Where is the manuscript? Can you let me see it?" "At that time, before I left the world government, I had already destroyed it immediately." William said directly. "Of course he made this up. But there is also a certain rationality, so, can you please?" Hear William say this. Robin was a little disappointed, but naturally he would not give up easily. "Still can't help but want to get to the bottom of it." "I understand what you mean, don't be so excited yet." Looking at the excited Robin, William shook his head, but unfortunately, apart from the whereabouts of the ancient weapon, the manuscript does not mention much information about the blank 100 years. The above only mentioned that a long time ago, there used to be a huge kingdom, which was suspected to have a technological civilization that far exceeded the current era. Based on some information that I only know a little bit about. William didn't hide much, he said half-truthfully. A technological civilization far beyond the current era? Robin's pupils shrank sharply, full of disbelief. "Ah, I also secretly found some information that was severely blocked by the world government and tried to be erased." William nodded and said solemnly. "About 200 years ago, a giant robot full of traces of time and rust, Madara, suddenly attacked the Holy Land Marijoy, causing a great sensation." "What?" Hearing this, Robin looked shocked. "I just feel that my own understanding is about to be subverted." Chapter 63. The Angry Sengoku, Admiral Aokiji. Open black lens bracket. Fourth update. Close black lens bracket. At the same time, located at the end of the first half of the Grand Line, adjacent to Naval Headquarters Marineford on the Red Line, in the magnificent Marine Building on the highest floor in the Marshal's office. With a bang sound, Naval Headquarters Marshal Buddha Sengoku slapped the expensive desk heavily and stood up suddenly. His eyes were burning, and he looked at the adjutant in front of him with a face full of shock and anger. "What did you say? Vice Admiral, the Supreme Commander of the GE2 branch, died? Are you kidding? Just let them hunt down Nika Robin?" "Marshal Sengoku, this is the Marine personnel accompanying the G2 branch, urgent report." Seeing the Marshal's anger, Branu couldn't help but shed a cold sweat, and was busy reporting quickly. "It is said that they were searching for the whereabouts of Nika Robin on Isla Blanca. When they just found Nika Robin and were preparing to arrest him, the Black Prison William suddenly appeared on that island. He directly used Conqueror's Haki to knock out most of the Marine personnel, and then fought with Vice Admiral. But Vice Admiral was no match and unfortunately died. This is the photo that was urgently faxed back, confirming that it is William of Hell himself." Branu said. "I respectfully presented a few photos and handed them to the Buddha Sengoku in front of me. That daring kid, the world government is worried about not being able to find him, and he's just trying to scare the monkeys. He disappeared for a few months and then suddenly reappeared?" Buddha Sengoku looked through the photos with fierce eyes. "Just see the first photo. A young, handsome, tall boy was standing on the rooftop with a young woman wearing a cloak. Astonishingly, he suddenly killed his boss a few days ago, made a big fuss in the Eni's lobby, stole 2 devil fruits that were going to be escorted to Marijoy, the center of world government, and directly defected from the Black Prison, William, who was offered a bounty of 79 million shellfish by world government at the age of 8. Lee, the son of the devil, Nika Robin, who is constantly being hunted. Hole. But then, turn to the last photo. Sengoku's pupils dilated and he was furious. Bang. A palm as big as a palm was slapped on the desk in anger. That expensive desk fell apart in an instant. I only saw the last photo. It was a bloody corpse. It was so miserable that he was almost no longer human. Based on the blood-covered face, one could barely recognize that this was Vice Admiral, the Supreme Commander of the G2 branch directly affiliated with the Naval Headquarters. Marine Vice Admiral can already be said to be the indispensable backbone of Naval Headquarters. Anytime a player is lost, it is a huge loss for Marine. Not to mention that it starts with the letter G and is directly subordinate to the Supreme Commander of the branch base of Naval Headquarters. How can Sengoku not be angry? This is simply a provocation and trample on Marine's majesty. Advertisement. Damn black jail. Obask William, that B*********** D kid, is simply lawless. Buddha Sengoku's face turned dark, and he gritted his teeth. The current situation is not just a matter of the unfortunate sacrifice of Marine Vice Admiral. At this time, An elderly woman wearing a righteous cloak walked in with a serious face. Crane Vice Admiral Sengoku Adjutant Branu was busy saluting. This gray-haired old woman is no ordinary woman. She is not only the Vice Admiral of Naval Headquarters, but also serves as the Marine think tank and serves as the Chief Advisor of Naval Headquarters. Xiaohei, you're here. Looking at the person, Sengoku's livid face suddenly relaxed a lot. The two have been friends fighting side by side since they were young. There has been a friendship for decades. Even the young Mui had a crush on him when he was young. It's a pity that he was too thin-skinned at that time, for fear that his confession would be rejected, and as a result, others would beat him to it. For this reason, Buddha Sengoku still has regrets to this day. That black prison William, he is a traitor of CP9 and knows too many secrets. Crane Vice Admiral was not polite to the Marshal, and said in a deep voice, "The reason I want to get close to Nika Robin is probably for the ancient weapon." Ancient weapon? Buddha's Sengoku had a serious look on his face, frowned and said, "Trouble? It's really unsettling for two dangerous guys to come together. The legendary ancient weapon has the power to destroy the world." Although he didn't know whether it was true or false, as the Marshal of Naval Headquarters, he did not dare to bet on such a possibility. Any threat must be nipped in the bud, and it's worth noting that his strength has improved so quickly. Crane Vice Admiral said seriously, "On the day of the big riot at Eni's lobby, he grabbed 2 devil fruits, one of which was a rare phantom beast species. It really cannot be underestimated." Buddha Sengoku nodded. No wonder Gumir defeated him so easily. When we were making a big fuss at Eni's lobby, the Satsuma Vice Admiral responsible for escorting devil fruit and passing there is just an ordinary Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. In terms of strength, he is not even a little bit worse than an elite Vice Admiral like Gumir. At first, Vice Admiral Satsuma was defeated and did not attract much attention. But now, the strength displayed by Hell William cannot be ignored. If you want to really catch the opponent, you may have to use the Admiral Substitute or Marine Admiral. No, that's not what I want to say. Crane Vice Admiral shook his head directly. Pointing to the photo in Buddha Sengoku's hand, he said bluntly, "According to the information sent back, he has not shown the ability of rat fruit, phantom beast species, and Kamaida form. He relied entirely on his physical skills to crush him. We hired Gumir, a veteran Vice Admiral with great strength and rich experience. Furthermore, if you look at Gumir's body, the injuries are more likely to be caused by a powerful shockwave, which is completely inconsistent with the abilities related to the phantom beast species in the form of the sickle and weasel described in the Devil Fruit illustrated book." Advertisement, you mean, he may have acquired other devil fruit abilities? Sengoku asked in surprise. *01*, according to CP's intelligence, Black Prison William was not yet an Esper when he defected. This possibility cannot be ruled out, Crane Vice Admiral said bluntly, but it is also possible that his physical skills in hockey have improved by leaps and bounds. That kid is indeed not simple. Together with Rob Lucci, he is known as the strongest genius in CP9 in the past 800 years, but it seems that Rob Lucci may be far inferior to him. Buddha Sengoku nodded solemnly. If I remember correctly, he is only 17 years old, right? Precisely because he is only 17 years old, we need to pay more attention to. Crane Vice Admiral felt a little inexplicable, and said quietly, he hit it too deeply, and he was born to awaken observation hockey. He has awakened Conqueror's hockey without knowing when, but he is secretly and blind. If we continue to let him go and give him time to grow, I'm afraid he will become another redhead. Hearing this, Buddha's Sengoku and Branu couldn't help but change their expressions. The red-haired Shanks, the trainee on board the Roger Pirates, is a rising star who has been rising rapidly in recent years. Although the red-hair pirates are not as good as the Whitebeard Pirates, the Big Mom Pirates, and the Beasts Pirates, these forces dominate the New World and dominate one side. But that's just because the power under his command is inferior. In terms of strength, it is no weaker than those monsters on the sea. In fact, the red-haired Shanks has been vaguely considered to be qualified to stand on an equal footing with great pirates such as Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Kaido. Even if Marine wants to go to war with the red-hair pirates, he must be fully prepared. This shows how highly Vice Admiral has a high opinion of Hell William. Go. Call that guy Aokiji over here. Buddha Sengoku's expression changed, and he finally made up his mind. The trouble he left behind should be solved by himself. The General Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral is obviously no match for Hell William. Directly dispatch the Admiral of Headquarters to pursue them. It is undoubtedly more stable. Ah, yes, Marshal Sengoku. Branu left in a hurry. Vice Admiral he didn't say much. She naturally understands the meaning of Buddha's Sengoku. It stands to reason that 15 years ago, under the Buster Call of Marine at the famous archaeological institution Ohara in West Blue, there was no possibility for anyone to survive. How could an 8-year-old girl escape alone? Moreover, Spangdine, who was the top officer of CP9 and the person in charge of Buster Call at the time, kept mentioning that their ships wanted to pursue them, but the result was as if the bottom of the ship was frozen and unable to move. Combined with Aokiji's abnormal performance at that time, it was obvious that the other party was shaken in his heart and felt compassion to let go of Nika Robin, a potential threat. Now a dangerous guy like Obask William is getting involved with Nika Robin, the son of the devil, who can decipher historical Chinese. The danger of the incident is undoubtedly extremely serious. It can no longer be left unchecked. Chapter 64. New Bounty, Inherently Evil World Government. Crash. The next day, early morning. The sun was shining brightly and there was no cloud in the sky. A medium-sized warship was moving slowly on the sea. A tall, energetic young figure lay lazily on the beach chair at the bow of the ship. Behind him, there was a parasol erected. Gaw. A news bird flew down on the warship. Holding a newspaper. Oh, today's newspaper? William opened his eyes, yawned lazily, and said nonchalantly. If nothing else happens, the two of us should be on the headlines, right? He has a handsome face and short black hair. The face full of collagen has a hint of childishness. But he was tall, no less than 3 meters tall, and his physique was unbelievably strong, and his muscle lines were in perfect proportions. The eyebrows reveal a maturity and composure that belies his age. Because there is no rush to meet up with Perona, Hogba Gu and others. And he also brought along a Robin who was still considering and did not immediately give an answer on whether he was willing to follow him, so he followed him temporarily. He didn't wrong himself anymore. 137, therefore did not take the other party directly to fly. Instead, he took the stolen warship and traveled slowly and leisurely. After all, why not be alone with a beauty like Robin? It's just a treasure, there's no rush to do anything. There's no need to push yourself so hard, William naturally knows. Take Robin's past experiences as an example. Being so hesitant and not directly agreeing to join his team is enough to prove a point. She never wanted to take advantage of him, Obask William. Otherwise, she has been struggling and surviving alone in the underground world for these years, constantly joining those ambitious forces, and when those forces encountered crises, she betrayed and left without hesitation and escaped alone. Without any hesitation, he nodded and joined. After all, you killed the top commander of the G2 branch, you are not an ordinary marine general. A graceful and beautiful figure came in all shapes and sizes. Robin, wearing a denim outfit and sexy, threw a coin and caught the newspaper thrown by the newsbird. Glancing at the 2 bounty orders sandwiched inside, he looked at William in surprise with his jewel-like eyes. Ah, your bounty has more than doubled, and there is a bounty of 500 million belly. I saw it on William's reward list. The photo has been changed and I don't know who took it. The background looked like it was on Isla Blanca, and his handsome face was clearly photographed. The amount above is even more jaw-dropping, a total of 500 million baileys, regardless of life or death. Turn to the second bounty sheet. Robin's eyes narrowed and he felt helpless. My bounty actually became 100 million baileys? She has always deliberately kept a low profile and is unwilling to attract the attention of the world government. Advertisement as a result, the bounty inevitably increased. Now, don't even think about living in peace. What's so strange about this? William shrugged and said nonchalantly, I guess the strength you showed yesterday has attracted Marine's attention. And don't forget, you are now with an ambitious and wanton criminal like me. In the eyes of the world government and Marine, the level of danger has obviously increased by more than one level. To be honest, I'm curious, looking at William's handsome face. There was a smile on Robin's beautiful face. He blinked and asked in confusion, why did you suddenly betray the world government? Although I don't know what the future holds, but she still decided to stay with him for the time being. But we only got along for less than a day. Robin found that instead of feeling uncomfortable, he felt surprisingly at ease. This little man, who was full of mystery and several years younger than herself, gave her an indescribable sense of security. I can only sigh secretly, humans are, after all, social creatures. Even she thinks she can no longer trust others easily. In my heart, I still long for a friend I can truly trust completely. Actually, I have never thought about staying in the world government and being a dog to those celestial dragons. William didn't mean to hide it, and said directly, the reason why I stay in CP peacefully is just to learn physical skills in hockey so that I can become stronger quickly. Yeah? Robin was surprised. Thinking of something, he asked curiously, hockey? Is it the power you used to stun those Marines just with a glare? That is Conqueror's hockey. It is an innate power that cannot be obtained through practice. It is a king's qualification that only a few people among countless people can possess. King qualifications? Robin raised an eyebrow. But thinking about yesterday on Isla Blanca, William could easily stun thousands of battle-hardened and well-trained Marine soldiers with just a glare from the rooftop. Compared to such a shocking performance, this description is quite appropriate. This is just one of the functions of Conqueror's hockey. But in this sea, there are only a few strong people who can truly master it perfectly and exert greater power. Including me now, I am still figuring it out. While saying that, William took the opportunity to popularize science about Chuani. I briefly introduced observation hockey and armament hockey. I see. In addition to devil fruit, is there such a magical power in this sea? After listening to William's introduction, Robin was amazed. She really didn't expect that in addition to the magical devil fruit ability, she also had such power as hockey. Can rival the devil fruit ability. If you are interested, I will teach you the practice of seeing, hearing and armed color when you return to the terror ship, William said with a smile. He already knows Robin's current strength. The opponent has mastered the 5 physical skills of shaping, moonwalk, tempest kick, paper arts, and finger pistol among the 6 moves. The only thing missing is Iron Body, that I haven't mastered yet. Advertisement, but I am already qualified to practice hockey. Okay, let's not talk about these digressions for now. There was a pause. Seeing Robin, he was very curious, and William didn't mind explaining his doubts, and continued. I didn't plan to betray world government so soon, but as the top executive of CP9, Spandam is a complete and utter man, relying on his relationship with Lousy for promotion. Hukaobao, you want me to be an undercover agent? It may take several years, I don't want to waste time, so I refuse. But he didn't agree, so you just killed him? Robin asked with a smile. No, originally he agreed. William shrugged and said with a sneer. But unfortunately, Lousy happened to come over to Eni's lobby and saw that his son had to give in because of the opinions of a subordinate. He directly vetoed my opinion and tried to threaten me. Robin suddenly realized. In this situation, based on the other person's character, on the premise of having the ability to protect yourself, it's not surprising that he made such a decision. People who are talented in art are bold and evil, so on a dark and windy night. Oh no, Eni's lobby is an island that never sleeps. There is only daytime, no night. He spread his hands and said nonchalantly. So, I turned around and killed the two father and son, grabbed the two devil fruits that were to be transported to Marijoy, and defected directly. Speaking of which, he thought of something, looked at Robin in front of him, and added unhurriedly. However, you should be happy. To a certain extent, I helped you get revenge. Help me take revenge? Robin blinked. Does it mean that she is often hunted by CP? Maybe you don't know, right? Spandam's father, Spandane, was the former CP9 chief, and your mother, Orovia, was arrested by him. Your hometown, Ohara. He was also the one who used the golden phone bug authorized by Sengoku, who was the Marine Admiral at the time, to launch the Buster Call to destroy it. Chapter 3.4 of William, like thunder, exploded in Robin's ears. She couldn't help being shocked. His face was full of shock, and his jewel-like eyes were wide open. Looking at William in disbelief, unable to calm down. Are you telling the truth? The voice was already a little choked. Crystal tears were accumulating in the eyes. Memories of scenes from the past inevitably came to mind again. Well, but Spangdine is only a small player. The real culprits of Ohara's destruction must be those who control the highest power of the world government. Or from the root, it is world government. Although looking at it from his perspective, those scholars in Ohara are indeed seeking death. But I'm sorry, the butt determines the head. He is not on the side of world government now. Of course I prefer Robin, the beautiful and intellectual big sister. As my chief enemy, Obask William, the world government is evil, corrupt, and cruel. He said it. No one can change it. Future history books will also say the same. Chapter 65 William's Ambition, the Terrifying Pirate. Thank you, William. For a long time a somewhat emotional Robin. He took a deep breath and gradually recovered, his eyes were a little red. She looked at the young figure in front of her, and her whole body was filled with indescribable gratitude. The other party can be regarded as taking revenge for her mother, and Shinhara. You're welcome, and I'm not doing it for you. I'm just unhappy. I've tolerated them and their son for a long time. William didn't take any credit. The reason why he killed Spangdine and his son, it's really just because I saw them unhappy and tolerated them for too long, just to vent their anger. Then what are you going to do in the future? She looked at William and said with some emotion. Both of us are the targets of the world government who want to get rid of us quickly. Don't even think about having a peaceful life in the future. Speaking of which, she was a little sad. Facing a behemoth like world government, what if William is extremely talented and can rival Marine Admiral in the future? Marine alone has more than one admiral. Not to mention the world government, which has firmly ruled this sea for 800 years and has a profound foundation. Goldo Roger, known as the Pirate King by the world, claimed to have enviable and crazy wealth, fame, and prestige. He was also caught by Marine and publicly executed. Although the world government is powerful, it is by no means the so-called invincible God. This sea is so wonderful, how can it be without me, Obask William? Looking at the undulating waves and the vast and boundless sea, William opened his arms and grinned. He had already completely let go of his scruples and no longer suppressed or concealed his ambitions. He said loudly and boldly, since we are determined to fight to the death, of course we will turn him upside down. An elite agent like him, he has mastered too much secret information from the world government. Once you betray, you will inevitably face endless pursuit by the world government. Whether it is to prevent leaks or to scare others and set an example, it is impossible to let them live. In the original trajectory, it has been many years since the future Fozzie Ford left CP9 and joined Beast's pirates. Most of the secret information we once knew is outdated. It can be said that there is not much threat to world government. But the CPO is not prepared to let the other party go. To obliterate it. William knew this very well. Even if you want to find a remote island, change your appearance and live in seclusion. But if one day you start a family, get married and have children, and your identity is leaked and found, wouldn't it be even more troublesome? The tragedies of our predecessors often occurred due to such luck. Of course he couldn't sit still and wait for death. What about world government? What about descendants of the creator? It was just 20 ambitious kings in the past who united to seize the power of the world. If they can do it, can they really not do it themselves? How? Do you want to follow me? Advertisement. William looked at Robin. He stretched out his right hand and invited again. The corners of his mouth were raised, full of willfulness and publicity. Maybe one day you may see a real king on Marie Joyce's vacant throne. So what if it fails in the future? It's just that he was shattered into pieces and buried in the sea. He has already died once. Although he has not lived enough, he is not afraid of the threat of death. At least, he competed, worked hard, and tried. There will be no regrets in life. What? Robin's pupils dilated. He stared blankly at William, who was talking wildly. Looking at the man in front of me, his high-spirited and ambitious attitude. Her closed heart couldn't help but ripples appeared. Shu Mu stared at the opponent's eyes that showed no shyness and revealed unlimited ambition. Suddenly, a touching smile appeared on her beautiful face. Then I really want to witness that moment. Unimaginable. Facing such an invincible and overwhelming force, it can be said that it is overwhelming. Normally, it would be good for the two of them to be able to safely escape the pursuit of the world government in the future and survive on this sea. The other party actually wanted to take his place. It's crazy. However, Robin surprisingly did not doubt whether the other party could do it. She admitted that facing this handsome, high-spirited, yet gentle little man, she was really a little moved. Unprecedentedly irrational, he agreed to William's invitation. I choose to believe this man and want to follow him wildly. Do your best to support him, then just take a look. He took hold of the beautiful woman's extended jade hand. William was full of confidence and laughed there. I believe, Robin, you will not regret your choice today. There is no intention of going into a long discussion and trying to make a big deal out of the other side. Time will prove everything. Crashing, crashing. At this time, suddenly there was a sound breaking through the air. Only 2 shells were seen landing on both sides of the warship, causing huge splashes of water. Let this medium-sized warship shake, Robin tensed. He looked in the direction of the cannonball. Advertisement. Pirate. William raised his eyebrows. Generally speaking, there are very few pirates who dare to attack marine warships. It seemed that he and Robin were the only ones on the ship, with no other marine personnel. That's why we launched the attack directly. Want to fight back? Robin asked. No, it was just a demonstration of firing. They want to come up and grab. William chuckled. As expected, the group of pirates did not fire again. Instead, he quickly approached the warship, but William had no intention of changing direction. Let them catch up. Wow, ha ha ha, there are indeed only 2 of us. On a pirate ship. Wearing a pirate hat, the tall pirate captain smiled ferociously and held up a Western command knife. But it's really strange. Did you steal a warship from some marine base? Little ones, come over here and grab them, Captain, the girl opposite has such a good figure, she must be pretty good looking, so she needs to be caught alive. Really, we can play for another 490 days, X7. It was a medium-sized pirate ship that was about the same size as the warship William had snatched. It was also not too big, about tens of meters long. A pirate with a fierce appearance, full of excitement. However, the 2 ships gradually approached. The difference is less than 1 or 2 kilometers. With the help of the monocular telescope, William and Robin standing on the bow of the ship were clearly seen. Each of these pirates' eyes widened, as if they had seen a ghost. Black William? Gulu, that woman is Nika. Robin, the son of the devil? Apparently he recognized the figure on the warship. A famous pirate looked panicked and couldn't help but feel cold. Some people still couldn't believe it, so they deliberately found the newspaper and the brand new reward list that they had just read, and compared them again and again to confirm. Damn. Why are they here? The leader of the pirate captain's face changed drastically. He broke out in cold sweat, and was full of panic. The guys who were offered bounties of 500 million belly and 100 million belly respectively by Marine. Quick, turn around and run. A group of pirates screamed in fear. 2 guys with a bounty of over 100 million are definitely not something they can mess with. Early this morning, I saw the front page of the World Economic Times that I ordered from Newsbird. The photos published showed the tragic scene of the separated bodies of the top commander of the Marine G2 branch and the Marine officers, which really shocked people. The pirate ship began to turn around. It's too late to leave in a hurry now. Chapter 66. Cannibalism, surprised Robin, 3rd update. Hey, want to leave? At this time, on the slowly moving warship. It's too late. William raised his right hand slightly, looking at Robin's surprised eyes. All he could see was his palm. Suddenly a large amount of black lines came out, shooting towards the pirate ship in the distance. This is... Robin was a little confused. Subconsciously, I used a monocular to observe the direction of the pirate ship. Next moment, in her disbelieving eyes, in the distance, a pirate ship was preparing to turn around and run away. One by one, the pirates suddenly lost control. These pirates screamed, and then they all went crazy, waving their swords and rushing towards their companions. Or he directly raised the gun and pulled the trigger towards his companion. Clang. Clang. KG. A tragic scene of pirates killing each other. It appeared in Robin's eyes instantly. Someone kept screaming. Fell in a pool of blood. Hiss, watch this scene. Robin couldn't help but gasp. He put down the monocular and looked at William in disbelief. Is this your fruit ability? She had never seen William use the devil fruit ability before on Isla Blanca, and she thought he was not a person with abilities. Don't be so surprised, it's just some trivial means. William said with a smile. He looked at the beautiful woman in front of him with her moving figure and stunning beauty. In comparison, I prefer your flower fruit ability. This is not nonsense. To be honest, if you put shadow fruit and flower fruit together, he will definitely choose flower fruit without hesitation and become a real tentacle monster. Advertisement: this fruit doesn't seem to be particularly powerful, not as powerful as those top lobias. It's actually hard to say. How high is its upper limit? It depends on whether the ability user itself is strong enough. If it were him, he could easily open a high speed. Be like Senju Hashirama and become a Buddha from the top. Give you 2 hands, I still have 99.8, maybe even 9,998. As long as the Esper has sufficient physical strength, Haki is strong enough. The power that flower fruit can exert, absolutely beyond imagination. Yeah, Robin chuckled. She is also very satisfied with her flower fruit ability. Watching William retract those insignificant shadow lines, he asked curiously, but, you haven't used your ability before, do you think it's unnecessary? This is a long story. Do you know the 7 warlords of the sea? Of course I know. It is said that they are 7 powerful pirates, which is equivalent to being recruited by the world government. Robin said directly without thinking. She often pays attention to those newspapers and collects relevant intelligence. I don't know anything about the Grand Line situation. Are these related? She did remember William mentioning it. Before leaving Eni's lobby, I grabbed 2 devil fruits that were to be escorted to Marijoy, the center of world government. About a few months ago, after I escaped from Eni's lobby, I accidentally encountered a storm, accidentally broke into the Devil's Triangle Sea, and was targeted by Gekko Moria, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. William did not hide anything and gave a brief introduction. Then, at that time, I was not as strong as I am now. I had a battle with Gekko Moria and was defeated by him with the ability of the shadow fruit. And his shadow was taken away and he was locked up in a dungeon. What? Robin's eyes widened, looking at William in shock. Then you. I didn't expect that the other party would have such an experience. But being able to defeat a guy like William, 7 warlords of the sea, is really powerful. But judging by the meaning, he should have become stronger in just a few months. Hey, that guy thought he could just lock me up with sea-stone handcuffs and then he could rest easy. Having said this, William couldn't help but sneer. But he underestimates me, the elite of CP9. After I recovered more than half of my injuries, I easily got rid of my restraints by relying on the life I had already mastered. I sneaked directly into the kitchen, poisoned the guy's food and killed him. So, Gekko Moria, the 7 warlords of the sea, is dead? Robin was a little sluggish. Advertisement: the notorious 7 warlords of the sea were killed just like that? That would be too frustrating. What really surprised me was. William nodded without denying it. Looking at the curious Robin, he smiled and said, after his death, the power of the shadow fruit miraculously reborn in front of me. What? Robin's eyes widened. Somewhat disbelieving, she lost her voice. Really? This is. What a coincidence, isn't it? Although it is said that after demon fruit power dies, it will be reborn randomly in a corner of the world. In theory, anywhere is possible, but it would be too exaggerated to appear in front of William like this. Perhaps it was the ability of the shadow fruit that chose me. William smiled slightly. As he spoke, in Robin's surprised gaze, his shadow stood up directly. It expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. It turned into a black shadow that was exactly the same as his own body shape and outline. Shadow stood up. Saw this scene. Robin's eyes narrowed, full of surprise. Is this the power of the shadow fruit? So, you hid your ability in front of Marine because you didn't want them to find out that Moria had been killed by you? She was obviously very smart and quickly thought of the key. After all, the identity of 7 warlords of the sea is not very useful to me. William shrugged and said with a smile. With this layer of skin, it is very convenient to do anything. When you want to use it, you can use it to show off. If you don't want to use it, just throw this layer of skin aside. I see, Robin suddenly understood. But Marine is not a fool. As long as Zhao Nuo Zhao summons the 7 warlords of the sea one day, it will be easy to find out, right? Hey, that's not necessarily the case. You have a look again. William laughed strangely and pointed at Shadow Mage. Then, in Robin's unbelievable eyes, phantom transformation. The Shadow Mage underwent an astonishing change in an instant. It surged like silk, expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye, and turned into another person. The body is 6 to 7 meters tall, somewhat bloated and fat, with a fair complexion and a huge head like a shallot. Hee. Do you think Marine recognizes him? The tall and bloated figure looked down at the shocked Robin. Moria said with a strange smile. The sharp voice was completely different from William himself. Hiss. This is Gekko Moria? Robin's face was filled with disbelief, and his mouth opened slightly. She recognized the other person. It was Gekko Moria, one of the 7 warlords of the sea whom she had seen in the newspaper. Chapter 67. A man riding a bicycle on the sea, 4th update. The weather is really nice today. Time flies. 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. The warship is still on the sea, riding the wind and waves and moving forward slowly. Head towards Bucklow Island, located at the entrance to the first half of the Grand Line, close to the H7 Route Whiskey Mountains. There were plenty of food, fresh water and other resources on the robbed warship, and the pirates they met along the way also provided them with a lot of free supplies. For 2 people, it's more than enough. Finished washing. Robin is in a happy mood, with a smile on his beautiful face. Seeing that William was wearing sea-stone handcuffs and training hard, he was already used to it and greeted him there. Haha, you really worked hard, sister. I don't want to work hard, I want to be willing to let myself down, but someone doesn't give me a chance. Holding the dumbbells originally equipped on the warship for marine training. William, who was doing push-ups there without blushing and out of breath, glanced at Robin helplessly. Who do you think gave him nowhere to vent his abundant energy? In the past 5 days, the two have become more and more familiar with each other, and their relationship can be said to have improved by leaps and bounds. Surprisingly, even William has the idea of intimacy. Robin, the big sister, didn't back down either. Instead, he responded very naturally and warmly. But what makes William depressed is that this intimate elder sister is so sinister. In the past 2 days, the two naturally became lovers. Her devil nature began to be exposed, and she always made him furious every time she bumped into her intentionally. Although he was full of benefits, at the critical moment when he was about to go into battle with real swords and guns, he was blocked by the other party's relatives. Moreover, they are not willing to give him the opportunity to find another way to open up the second and third battlefields. He ran away decisively as soon as possible. There is a chance. I am very optimistic about you, William. His jewel-like eyes blinked. Robin covered his mouth and chuckled, full of teasing. She did not reject this handsome young man who was incredibly strong despite his young age and gave people a sense of security. On the contrary, I have always been a little excited. Especially based on past karma. After 5 days of getting along, the two became familiar with each other day by day. She also gradually figured out the other party's character. Advertisement: he is a cruel and ruthless black prison towards his enemies. But the real him is not as cold as imagined, let alone as cruel as outsiders see him. At least, this is generally the case when it comes to treating one's own people. Calm, wise, powerful, he also has perseverance and perseverance. There is also a burning ambition that refuses to be ordinary. And like other men, William is not really perfect and has shortcomings. He is a bit lustful, but not obscene. He is frank and never hides it. Under such circumstances, at the age of 23, in the most beautiful years of his youth, how could Robin, who has never really been in love, not be tempted? For more than 10 years, under the pursuit of the world government, she continued to experience betrayal, was forced to close her heart, and learn to betray others. Alone, hiding here and there, living a life of precariousness and fear. When she really meets a man who has saved her time and time again, who is able to open her heart without thinking of using her at all, and who is willing to protect herself and become her reliance. In particular, this man is young, handsome and has great strength. Relatively speaking, his character is not bad, just like Prince Charming in fairy tales. It can satisfy almost all the fantasies a woman has about her partner, just like a walking hormone. Even though over the years, no matter how hard he pretends to be, he is just like a hedgehog who has no access to oil or salt. Privately, she is, after all, a woman who longs to be loved. Nature inevitably fell. Today is the 7th day. Robin squatted in front of him and spoke with a smile. Doesn't that mean we have to wait 2 more days? William was unmoved and looked at her sideways. This woman is too sinister and he won't be fooled easily. Maybe, there are other ways. Blinking her watery eyes. Robin gently licked her red lips, which were moist and moist. Under the open collar, intentionally or unintentionally, the crime-inducing 24K ultra-clear picture. Coupled with the charming and seductive look, it makes people's eyelids jump. It makes people want to bleed from the nose. Don't play with fire anymore. Once I become a beast, I will not be a human being. William warned there, with the eyes of examining art. He watched generously there. Lace? It's still purple. But he didn't fall for it easily. Of course, it's because he has been a human for 2 lifetimes. He has always admired and loved and felt sorry for this son of the devil who has a bad fate and is full of misfortune from the bottom of his heart. If it were someone else, he would dare to provoke him like this. Even if relatives came, William would not be polite to her, and he would not stop until blood flowed. I'm not afraid that you are not a human being. I'm afraid that little William is worse than a beast. Haha. Touched William's handsome face. With a smile on his pretty face, Robin teased and walked away with a smile. This was a joke that the other party had told her before, and she used it flexibly. Don't you know whether it is big or small? William glanced at her. Although he didn't get on base directly, someone couldn't hold back his hands. He didn't get angry, and continued to exercise there. Breakfast is prepared for you, I've already eaten. Because of morning exercise, he got up early, before training without wearing sea-stone. He had already asked Shadow Mage to simply prepare breakfast for 2 people. And his own portion is more than 10 times that of the other party. Of course, this is not because Robin is lazy. In her words, women should not get up too early and should get enough sleep, which is good for the skin. However, William doesn't have to worry about lunch and dinner. Advertisement usually Robin is responsible for it personally. And since he witnessed William's exaggerated appetite, every time, he specially prepared a super large portion for him. Time passed quickly. The two talked and laughed, teasing each other from time to time, bickering. Whether it was William himself or Robin, it was obvious that they enjoyed such time. It was rare to be so relaxed, without intrigue and without worries. In the blink of an eye, it was already noon. Heavy dumbbells. Pressing on the thick deck, a series of teeth-grinding moans were emitted. Clang. A pair of sea-stone handcuffs were untied by William. Originally, he was a little tired after long-term training, but he was relieved and regained his strength instantly. Tisk tisk, it's incredible. Looking at the sea-stone handcuffs that William found on the warship, and then looking at the dumbbells that William had stacked to an exaggerated degree. Robin, who had just prepared a sumptuous lunch and walked out of the cabin kitchen, was full of emotion. Wearing sea-stone, you can lift dumbbells so easily and do such exaggerated training. As a person with special abilities, she has tried it on purpose. As long as you encounter this kind of sea stone that is specially used by the Marine to deal with prisoners with special abilities, and the purity is infinitely close to 100%, the whole person will inevitably feel weak all over. It's good to be able to stand and walk normally. But William, who is also a person with special abilities, is like a monster. Not to mention the long-term high-intensity training of lifting dumbbells, I'm afraid even physical skills like the 6 styles can be used. It didn't take long. The two of them finished their delicious lunch together. Robin, the good wife and mother, was responsible for cleaning up the dishes. William, who was full of food and drink, rested his head on his arms and leaned casually on the bow, where he was enjoying the sea breeze. But I don't know how long it took. He seemed to have sensed something and suddenly looked in another direction. Ah, here comes a troublesome guy, looking at the sea in the distance. A figure riding a bicycle slowly approached, and his eyes could not help but focus. William smiled lightly. Are you trying to help me digest my food? Huh? Robin was stunned. Subconsciously, he followed the other person's gaze. The whole person was shocked. BB. Chapter 68 Admiral Aokiji, The Frozen Sea. X. On the warship. Robin came over. Looking at the bicycle riding in the distance, the figure becomes clearer and clearer. My heart skipped a beat, and I felt intense uneasiness. Subconsciously from inside the fourth-dimensional pocket, he took out a monocular and observed. I could clearly see the figure riding a bicycle in the distance, getting closer and closer. That's... Robin's whole body trembled, and his face turned pale. Subconsciously, he grabbed William's hand tightly, and his palms were already sweating. Admiral Aokiji? The voice couldn't help but tremble a little, sounding uneasy and fearful. Hey, it seems that you still underestimated Marine's information. William chuckled. But even if he was blocked by Marine Admiral, he was not afraid at all. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so arrogant and slowly and leisurely ride on the warship. That's the Marine Admiral, which represents the highest combat power of the naval headquarters. Aokiji is also a Logia user. He can easily freeze the sea. We can't escape. Robin was full of bitterness. I can't help but feel a little desperate. She had just seen a glimmer of hope. Will we suddenly fall into darkness again? Don't be nervous, it's just Marine Admiral, caressing Robin's beautiful face. William comforted her, who looked pale and felt a little wrong. Obviously, seeing Admiral Aokiji suddenly appear, she inevitably fell into memories again. Recalling the scene when O'Hara was destroyed by Buster Call. Do you know Admiral? Robin smiled bitterly. Shaking his head gently, he wanted to say something. But the next moment, William smiled lightly. In her shrinking eyes, brush. The black shadow under his feet kept changing. It turned into a lifelike giant eagle with a wingspan of more than 3 or 4 meters. This is the power of the shadow fruit? Robin was surprised. She didn't expect William's ability to be able to do such a thing. If you have the ability to fly, just escape now. Advertisement. At this distance, I believe Aokiji should not be able to catch up. You sit on it and leave first. I will rush over to meet you later, William said directly with a smile. You want to fight, Admiral? Hear the words. A somewhat relaxed Robin. His eyes couldn't help but look at William nervously, full of worry. I just want to confirm how far away I am from those monsters. There was a trace of fighting spirit in William's eyes. He touched her pretty face and smiled. Don't worry, I'm not stupid. I have no intention of fighting to the death with such a strong person. Robin was obviously worried. Those are the admirals of naval headquarters. It is rumored that each of them is a monster with overwhelming strength, not an ordinary strong man. Once he is entangled, when William wants to leave, it will not be that easy. Don't worry, the ability of the shadow fruit is more powerful than you think. I can swap places with my shadow at any time, no matter how far apart we are. William chuckled. The tone was full of confidence. There is no worry at all. If I want to run away, no one can stop me. Let it take you away first, so I won't have to worry about anything later. Asterisk. $300. Hear William say this. Although he was a little shocked by the power of the shadow fruit, Robin was still a little worried. But seeing that he had made up his mind, he could only nod lightly. You must get out in time, don't be too obsessed with fighting. said. I saw the figure riding a bicycle getting closer and closer. He knew that if he continued to stay here, it would only distract William and he had to protect himself. She no longer hesitated and jumped onto the back of the eagle. William, I'm waiting for you in front, you must catch up safely. Looking at the young, handsome and high-spirited figure in front of him, Robin pursed her lips lightly, her jewel-like eyes filled with indescribable affection. In just a few days of getting along, this man, who was several years younger than her, made her happier than ever before. She no longer wanted to be like before, a person who could only hide here and there, wear a hypocritical mask, survive by constantly betraying others, and survive alone on the sea. Don't worry, I haven't got you yet. Hold on tight, don't fall. William laughed. Holding Robin's soft body, toward the bright red beauty, the wolf took a peck. The next moment, the eagle transformed from the shadow mage fluttered its wings. Sigh. Accompanied by a strong wind pressure. Advertisement. Asterisk 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 asterisk, at an astonishing speed, he rushed into the distance. 1 kilometer away on the sea. Look at the eagle suddenly rising into the sky. There is also a vague figure above that can be seen sitting there. I'm careless. Is there another pet that can fly? The tall and thin figure was approaching the warship on a bicycle, but his expression changed. As a Logia frozen fruit user, he immediately jumped off the bicycle. Without hesitation, he activated his fruit ability, Ice Age. BU. In an instant, the undulating sea was directly blocked at a speed visible to the naked eye. It turned into a vast expanse of white, vast and endless ice field with no end in sight. Even the warship that was moving slowly ahead was no exception. He was frozen directly and couldn't move, don't even think about leaving. Aokiji turned into an afterimage. The cold air surged under my feet and turned into a piece of ice. The whole person jumped up and ran out at an astonishing speed, wanting to catch up with the eagle that fluttered away. Suddenly, Aokiji stopped. His eyes were fixed on the warship ahead. The tall figure was standing on the bow of the ship, looking at him with fighting spirit. Moreover, that rather strong aura and strong fighting spirit can be felt from a distance. Hell, William? Aokiji recognized the other party. About 2 years ago, he met Obask William in Eni's lobby. At that time, he happened to be escorting a pirate prisoner with a bounty of over 100 million to the deep-sea prison. Prepared to pass through the gate of justice and enter the giant vortex that connects the 3 major institutions, Eni's lobby, deep-sea prison, and naval headquarters. Although there was no communication between the two. Mainly because Spandam, the CP9 officer, wants to flatter him. But this boy who followed Spandam, who was too young and was known as the strongest genius in CP9 in 800 years, left a deep impression on him. Unexpectedly, a few months ago, the other party suddenly killed his boss and defected directly, causing a scene in Eni's lobby, one of the 3 major agencies of the world government. Now, there has been such a big commotion again. Long time no see, Aokiji Admiral. Chapter 69. Punch to the Flesh, Hockey Fights, second update. With the sea frozen, the temperature of the entire sea area dropped sharply. The biting cold wind made people shiver uncontrollably. Tisk, tisk, did the entire sea freeze in an instant? On the immobile warship, he glanced around at the sea that was frozen in an instant. William stared at Aokiji in front of him and said with a smile, I have to say, Logia Zhongjian fruit has really amazing abilities. Thanks to you, I have been running around all day to find your whereabouts, but even my vacation had to be cancelled. Walking on the frozen sea, Aokiji walked over slowly. Examining the other party, he said calmly, but, you let Nika Robin escape alone, and you stay here to break up the family? As a former CP9 elite, don't you know what kind of person she is? His eyes were somewhat cold, and he warned unceremoniously, this woman will only bring misfortune to others. Anyone who has anything to do with her will not end up well in 873. Result. It will only bring misfortune to people. Listening to Aokiji's words, William sneered and sneered. Isn't it just the cowardly and incompetent world government that is afraid of a mere 8-year-old girl, who has been hunted and persecuted for more than 10 years? Justice will vary depending on the position. Aokiji's face remained unchanged and he said calmly, you can say so as you wish, I'm not here to catch up with you. As the CP9 traitor who killed your boss and caused a scene in Eni's lobby, you are also a felon wanted by the world government. Said. His eyes gradually became sharp, staring closely at William on the bow of the ship. Although I don't like the way those CP guys act, and I don't want to wipe their butt. But Vice Admiral can also be considered me. Comrade in arms who have a good relationship with you, since you are seeking your own death, you can't blame me. I finally blocked you and let Nika Robin escape. If I don't deal with you, I will be scolded. Frozen time capsule. The words have not yet finished. The next moment, the intense cold air swept out like lightning. He was not prepared to give William any time to react. For a moment, William didn't seem to come back to his senses before he was completely frozen and turned into a human-shaped ice sculpture. Even the warship under his feet was completely covered in ice. Turned into a huge ice sculpture. However, just the next moment, cracks appeared directly on the human-shaped ice sculpture. A large amount of ice ballast splashed away at a speed visible to the naked eye. Are you going to show off your power as soon as you come up? William, who was safe and sound, looked at Aokiji and chuckled. It's really cold. Ah la la, can't you freeze it easily? Aokiji raised his eyebrows, not too surprised. No wonder it's not easy to kill that guy Gumir. A typical pirate with a bounty of over 100 million. If you were frozen by him, you wouldn't even be able to resist, and you would have to turn into an ice sculpture. But William was able to break free easily. I have to say that it is really shocking that someone at such an age has such strength. It would be really dangerous if a guy like you was left alone. He raised his right hand slightly, half of the body is covered with frost. Advertisement. There were wisps of chilly air. His eyes were cold, revealing a murderous intent. So, you'd better go die. That's not possible. William looked relaxed and said with a smile, I haven't lived enough yet. The next moment, he stepped hard, it disappeared in an instant. Appeared in front of Aokiji, finger pistol Gatling gun. Wrapped around Haki's index finger, it turned into fingerprints all over the sky, dazzling people. Shoot without mercy. TSKSK, in an instant, ice shards flew. Aokiji's whole body was dug into a hornet's nest. The body that turned into ice was densely packed with fingerholes. Elementalize in advance? William's eyes narrowed and he stepped forward. Back out violently. As expected, Aokiji's whole body exploded. Woohoo! The surging cold air swept over, but William managed to avoid it. Kaka. The human-shaped ice sculpture condensed out at a speed visible to the naked eye. But Aokiji's body shape has not yet fully manifested. William had already taken action without hesitation. Tempest kick break, his right foot swept out like lightning. An astonishing slash, carrying the flowing Haki, blasted out boldly. Ice wall, between the electric light and flint. An extremely thick wall of ice lay across there, firmly blocked William's attack. Boom. Ice fragments flew and smoke filled the air. On the huge ice wall, 10 shocking marks were left on the wood. But it was not cut open after all. Puck, at this time. The cyan figure shot out. His hands released astonishing freezing energy and turned into several icicles. Flooded towards William, who had just landed, extremely fast. The flexible snake. William's eyes narrowed. Both fists were clenched and thrown out in panic. Although I don't want to expose the shadow fruit ability too early. But it's still possible to be a paramecia telescopic fruit user. Huh. A loud roar broke through the air. Advertisement in Aokiji's fierce gaze, the two fist seals wrapped around Haki continued to expand and contract and accelerate. It turned into an afterimage and blasted forward. It's as devastating as decay. The icicles that flooded in and wanted to cover and freeze William were directly blown away. What? The sound of breaking through the air continued. The dense fist seals continued to stretch, and their power continued unabated. Continuously, they bombarded Aokiji from the air, who changed his color slightly and was a little caught off guard. It's Marine Admiral after all. In the flash of lightning, Aokiji reacted immediately and showed no signs of weakness at all. Relying on observation Haki's prediction, his fists wrapped around armament Haki also continued to swing out, blocking William's fierce offensive. Fully demonstrating his powerful strength as Admiral of Headquarters. It's not just about fruit ability, OSOFT, our. The two of them were fisting and shaking each other until their flesh was hard. The thick ice beneath my feet was cracked by the shock. The fierce wind swept away countless pieces of ice. It makes people unable to open their eyes. Click. A footstep. The pressure caused the ice to crack. William withdrew his fist seal and looked at him with awe-inspiring eyes. I felt my fists were burning and trembling slightly. For a moment, I took a breath of cold air and couldn't help but secretly wonder, is this Marine Admiral's Haki? It's really hard. These past few months, his armament Haki can be said to have improved by leaps and bounds. Especially with the training experience of powerful men such as Swordsman Ryoma and Captain John in Haki, it has reached a higher level. But compared to 5.1, Marine Admiral, which has monster-like strength and basically has no major shortcomings in terms of devil fruit ability or Haki, is obviously still some distance away. With the ability to freely expand and contract, it can continuously accumulate power and increase the range of attacks. Neither of them could overwhelm the opponent in terms of strength. Little did I know, someone was more shocked than him. This guy. Aokiji felt shocked. Although his armament Haki was better than William, it failed to directly crush the opponent. However, few people know that this Admiral of Headquarters also has another identity, that is, he is the direct disciple of Marine hero, Iron Fist, Garp. Although in the eyes of outsiders, he relies more on the ability of frozen fruits. But in fact, Aokiji has never fallen behind in Haki's practice. And William was actually able to face Todoroki with him head-on. This really frightened him. What kind of monster is this? If you remember correctly, you're only 17, right? Is this the strongest genius of CP9 in the past 800 years? Chapter 70 Telescopic Fruit. Nightmare form open black lens bracket third update close black lens bracket. ISAN. On the ice. The wind was biting. The sea surface was frozen and the climate of the entire sea area had begun to change quietly. That is, William. If it were an ordinary person, wearing a windbreaker like him, he would have been shivering. Is this your ability? He stared at William. Aokiji was a little surprised. According to CP's intelligence, the other party was not a superpower when he defected. He also snatched 2 devil fruits from the world government, one of which was a rare zone fantasy beast. But the other party's current performance is undoubtedly more like a Paramecia superpower. Compared to the ability of the fantasy beast type sickle weasel form. It's not a little bit worse. Very unexpected, right? William shrugged. Seemingly indifferent, he said, I once accidentally got an unknown devil fruit and took a gamble. Unexpectedly, my luck was not good. I got an ability similar to the Paramecia rubber fruit recorded in the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. Paramecia telescopic fruit. Telescopic fruit? Aokiji looked at William and said sarcastically, then your luck is really bad. He did not doubt William's words. Or, even if it was a lie deliberately made up, it had no effect on him. 24 Judging from the other party's performance just now, it is indeed more like Paramecia. But compared to the ability of the mythical beast species, Kamaidachi form, which can manipulate wind blades and easily cut and tear all targets according to the records in the Demon Atlas, it is obviously much worse. This is also the price of the other party's overconfidence. Young and full of confidence, wanting to gain more powerful abilities. Ambitious and too greedy, led to this result. This is not surprising. That may not be the case. I am quite satisfied with the telescopic fruit, William said. Looking directly at Aokiji, he was full of fighting spirit. The whole person rushed out. Come on, let me fully see the Admiral of Headquarters' strength. He had no fear or retreat, even though he had realized the gap between the two. But from beginning to end, he was still full of confidence and his will was unwavering. You are indeed a rare genius, what a pity. Aokiji pulled his collar. He took off his coat and threw it aside, burst pheasant mouth. His right hand was in the shape of a knife, pointing directly at William. It was covered with a lot of frost all of a sudden, and it was cold. Swish. In an instant. The cold air was surging. A huge icebird flapped its wings and flew out. Woohoo. The ferocious icebird carried amazing freezing air. Wherever it passed, everything was mercilessly bound. It blasted towards William fiercely. Partial enlargement. A giant pistol that can be extended and retracted freely. William's face remained unchanged, as the shadow changed quietly. The right fist raised directly suddenly swelled up. Aokiji's pupils shrank sharply, and he was a little surprised. The fist has become bigger? The telescopic fruit can also change like this? But he was not worried, and was still confident. The giant's fist? Then freeze them together. The exaggerated fist print was wrapped in rain. The huge icebird that could freeze everything came to the violent attack and collided with each other. However, the huge icebird and the huge fist print just touched each other. A huge roar. The icebird was seen wailing constantly. It was ruthlessly smashed by the armament hockey that kept flowing and rushing out. SYY. Sigh. Destroyed everything. The huge icebird was directly crushed. Advertisement it turned into countless broken ice, and splashed out along with the violent airwaves. Are the armed colors exposed? Witnessing this scene, Aokiji breathed a sigh of relief. With a slightly solemn gaze, he looked deeply at William in front of him. I really underestimated you. He originally thought that the icebird he released could freeze the opponent's huge fist in an instant. Unexpectedly, the opponent's armament hockey could not only play outside, but also be so skillful in training. Before it made full contact, the icebird he released had already been shattered. Hey, the blood is starting to boil, all of a sudden. The right fist began to shrink and return to normal. William's eyes were blazing, and his fighting spirit was as high as ever. King Cobra. His fists were clenched suddenly, and veins popped out. There was a direct change, and it was magnified several times. Although it is not as exaggerated as the giant, it is still a bit frightening. A fierce offensive was launched again. The fists were enlarged several times. Wrapping around the powerful hockey, he blasted out wildly. As the shadows changed, fist prints filled the sky densely and overwhelmingly. He couldn't help but blasted at Aokiji, ice gloves. Aokiji is not to be outdone. The muscles are tight and the veins are bulging. Stop being dismissive and start taking it seriously. Both fists are directly covered with a layer of ice and wrapped with chi. Punch continuously. Go out to meet the attack. The ice cracked. The strong wind kept raging. Aokiji once again shows off his admiral abilities. Advertisement block all the incoming fist seals, and prepare to launch a counterattack. Keep approaching William. What? Suddenly, he seemed to feel something. His expression changed, and his head suddenly turned to one side. A fierce fist mark, violently rubbing against the air, suddenly turned and struck over. It's hard to avoid being avoided by him. Immediately afterwards, countless fist seals continued to turn. Continuous blasts came. It made him change color in shock. Hell, don't underestimate Marine Admiral. There were no dangers, dodging and blocking the fist marks that kept turning left and right and attacking crazily. Aokiji stepped hard and rushed in front of William like lightning. The fist mark is covered with solid ice and wrapped with armed colors. Attacked without mercy. Boom. Even with the powerful observation hockey, the crisis was predicted immediately. Although William tried his best to block it, he still couldn't avoid it and was directly hit by Aokiji's powerful iron fist, Wolf. Wow! His chest collapsed, his face was distorted, and he vomited blood. Even in the lightning flash, the muscles all over the body were tense, and the hasty use of iron body and haki could not be defended. It was inevitable that he suffered a shocking blow. Bang! Bang! The whole person flew out like a cannonball and hit the ice behind. Large amounts of smoke and dust were raised, ice shards flying. Ha ha ha, you are worthy of being a marine admiral, really strong enough. I saw only ruins. William, who was embedded in the ice, was in a miserable state and covered in blood. The corners of the mouth were bleeding, but the whole person was laughing, and his eyes revealed unspeakable madness. This is called fighting. Inside some tattered windbreakers, the shadows of the two giant warriors, Blue Ogre and Red Ogre, were compressed into shadow balls and carried around. At this moment, it was directly absorbed into his body. He clenched his fists and roared, "Return to life nightmare form." Chapter 71. Burning Fist, Flame King Snake, 4th update. There was a roar. The ice layer shook continuously. The thick ice surface is constantly cracking at a speed visible to the naked eye. Shocking cracks spread one after another there, makes your scalp numb. Ah la la, what a tenacious guy. Looking at the terrifying tall figure, Aokiji's eyes shrank sharply. Watch closely for a drastic change in your image. William is completely different from the previous one. His eyes were a little uncertain, and his face was solemn. Is this also your ability? Next, round 2, husky voice, it came from William's mouth. His hair stood up and his skin color was blue. The height of just over 3 meters suddenly increased to 8 or 9 meters. The clothes on his upper body had already burst open, veins popped out all over his body, and his muscles were bulging and stretched to the extreme. Invisibly, it is filled with an unimaginable sense of power. The whole person looks like an evil ghost crawling out of hell. It's unstoppable. Shaving. He stepped hard, the moment the ice collapsed. The tall figure spanned a distance of hundreds of meters in an instant. Like an afterimage, he killed himself in front of Aokiji at an incredible speed. So fast, Aokiji's pupils shrank sharply, a little shocked. But the next moment, a loud roar broke through the air. The violent fist marks have torn apart the atmosphere and blasted up. Ice wall. The cold air surge. A thick wall of ice suddenly stood there. But before Aokiji could launch a counterattack, he was ready to freeze Hell William in one breath. The ice wall he released was smashed into pieces like tofu. Who? Wrapping around haki, the fist seal made of poured steel kept elongating, blasting straight towards him like a cannonball. What? Aokiji lost his voice. Hastily, arms wrapped around haki. Staggered block. Bang. A violent punch. The unimaginable power shocked Aokiji's arms, causing severe pain and burning. The whole person's face was full of shock, and he flew out like a cannonball. A somewhat embarrassed cyan figure dragged a long trajectory on the ice, leaving a shocking groove. It turned into countless pieces of ice, completely removing the impact resistance. The next moment, the ice cubes reorganized there. Advertisement transformed into human form. Strength, speed, are completely different from what they were just now. He exhaled a breath of cold air. Aokiji's eyes were stern, staring at William, whose strength had soared, and he was completely different from before. Shaving. William stepped hard. The moment the ice exploded, the whole person turned into an afterimage. In an instant, the tall figure with a violent aura, like a little giant, rushed in front of Aokiji. Cobra. The huge fist seal became as black as ink. All of a sudden, it stretched out like a long dormant lion majesty and blasted forward. Unstoppable. Ice gloves, it's Marine Admiral after all. Facing the menacing William, he did not flinch. The right fist covered with solid ice suddenly wrapped around haki and flew out without any sign of weakness. Boom. A terrifying collision. The shock caused the ice to crack. Shocking cracks spread one after another. The violent airwaves swept through countless pieces of ice, ripples in all directions. It makes people burst into cold sweat. Frozen time capsule, in an instant. The astonishing freezing air rushed out like lightning and was about to freeze the huge figure. However, William's reaction was lightning fast. He disappeared in front of Aokiji in an instant. What? Unexpectedly, Aokiji's eyes narrowed and his hair stood up. Relying on observation haki's prediction, turn around suddenly. Pupils dilate. Boom, a thick wall of ice blocked it there. But there was no suspense, and it was immediately blown to pieces. Countless pieces of ice splashed everywhere. The telescopic King Cobra. The violent fist seal is invincible. Kankin was blocked by Aokiji's crossed arms. It's unbelievable that someone with such an exaggerated body shape can have such reflexes. The ice beneath Aokiji's feet cracked, and he stared in disbelief at William, who looked like a demon in front of him, making people unable to help but feel frightened. BU. Shockingly cold. Keep releasing. Trying to freeze William's fist. But at this moment, another huge fist mark struck directly. Aokiji changed color and decisively gave up on freezing the opponent. Advertisement. He stepped hard and retreated. Try to distance yourself. And William didn't hesitate. he refused to give up and pursued him. Invincible rocket launcher, as the shadow changes. The arms continue to extend, accumulating terrifying potential energy. The next moment, it shrank back like lightning. The closed palms wrapped around armament hockey, carrying unparalleled power. Hit Aokiji hard. Violent pheasant mouth, between the electric light and flint. A huge ice bird was released, extremely ferocious, carrying endless freezing air. Come to meet the attack. Destroy the ancients. The huge ice bird was ruthlessly blasted to pieces. But it also bought time for Aokiji. Hockey, he jumped up high. A large number of icicles were released, flooding straight towards the tall figure. William was not given any time to react at all. Brush. Suddenly, William, who had no time to dodge, was frozen directly. Within the huge ice layer, his tall and ferocious figure was clearly visible. Aokiji took a long breath of cold air, but before he could be happy, he changed his color in shock. What? Kacha. Kacha, the money is good, the huge iceberg cracked directly. The terrifying tall figure broke free. Fire King Snake. The violent fist marks wrapped around hockey, constantly expanding and contracting. The atmosphere was continuously and violently rubbed, and a blazing fire suddenly appeared. The fist mark, which was burning with fire, carried unparalleled impact. The sky and the earth were overwhelming, and a crazy bombardment came up. Ice wall. A huge ice wall stood there again. However, it was penetrated directly like a ruin, and the thick ice wall was melted and evaporated by the flaming fist seal Wucheng. He refused to give up and came straight towards him. Ice gloves are bitter. Aokiji changed color in shock. His eyes were stern, and his hands were once again covered with ice, turning as black as ink. Not to be outdone, he waved wildly. Go out to meet the attack. Chapter 72 Frost Giant, Strong Collision, EPET. Boom, there was a constant roar. The ice surface was shaking. Fist marks filled the sky, covering the sky and the earth. Two figures, one big and one small, with unequal body shapes, kept making love there. On one side, there was a terrifying fire, extremely hot. On the other side, the cold air is surging, threatening to freeze everything. It's like two layers of ice and fire. The fists hit the flesh, and they refused to give in to each other. Fighting like crazy. Happy, William grinned and laughed. I felt that all the cells in my body seemed to be jumping for joy and cheering. My whole body was boiling with excitement and excitement. The fighting spirit has never been higher. What a terrible guy. Aokiji looked stern. He showed no signs of weakness and punched wildly. It continuously outputs freezing energy to maintain the ice fist. Danger blocks the densely packed area, which may turn left or right at any time, and the flaming fist marks can't stop coming from all angles unreasonably. But it is inevitable, and I am secretly shocked. Not only the speed and strength, but also hockey has become a lot stronger, it's incredible. His armament hockey, which is quite not weak, is naturally slightly better. Coupled with the ability of frozen fruit, he should have the upper hand. But the opponent's skyrocketing power took advantage. This led to a confrontation between the two and a stalemate. Asterisk. At this time, William stopped punching. He stepped hard, his right foot felt like electricity. Sweeping straight towards Aokiji, Tempest Kick Guy Bird. Call out, the atmosphere was ruthlessly torn apart. An incomparably huge slash that made people break out in cold sweat shot out of the air. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into an extremely ferocious giant bird. Carrying the flowing hockey, it stormed towards Aokiji. Unstoppable. Allah. At the same time, Aokiji is not to be outdone. His right hand was in the shape of a knife, releasing an astonishing amount of freezing energy. Ice cube storm pheasant mouth. Between lightning and flint, the huge ice bird condensed and formed there. Carrying unparalleled freezing air, it flapped its wings straight out. The giant bird slashed with lightning speed and struck together fiercely. Woo-hoo-hoo. The ice shook violently and roared continuously. Advertisement: the violent airwaves carried countless broken ice, causing ripples. It makes people unable to open their eyes, can't look straight. Partially enlarge. A giant pistol that can be retracted and retracted freely. William rushed forward suddenly. Aokiji was not given any time to breathe. As the shadow changed, the right fist expanded like a balloon, turning into a huge fist mark. It's even more exaggerated than an ordinary giant, almost comparable to Hiroto Oza's fist. The exaggerated giant fist wrapped around hockey, who was not weak, and directly crushed the atmosphere. It hit Aokiji, who turned pale in horror. Ice wall. The freezing air surge. Huge ice wall, there. But in the next moment, it was like dregs of tofu, being ruthlessly destroyed. The ice surface is hundreds of meters in radius. It was immediately collapsed and cracked. However, William did not launch an attack immediately. The muscles all over his body were tense and veins popped out. He roared. Complete form. Nightmare Titan. What? Aokiji immediately retreated and escaped the blow, and just breathed a sigh of relief. Hey, is it too exaggerated? His pupils shrank sharply. He looked at William in disbelief. whose whole body was like a balloon, inflating at a speed visible to the naked eye, and growing bigger and bigger. T.Z. Suddenly, the ice surface trembled. The huge cracks crisscrossing each other are constantly expanding. A huge figure that is no less than 30 or 40 meters tall and has a terrifying aura that blocks out the sky and the sun. It just stood there. Appear in front of Aokiji, hiss. He couldn't help but gasp. This monster, have to doubt. Is the other party really a user with the ability to stretch fruits? Such ability is a bit exaggerated, the telescopic King Cobra. The gigantic William had an astonishing aura, and his voice was extremely hoarse. Veins popped up all over his body, and an extremely exaggerated and huge fist mark was suddenly raised. Wrapped around Haki, black and shiny. The air was violently rubbed. A little bit of fire appeared, becoming extremely hot. It overwhelmingly overwhelmed the atmosphere, like a violent storm, and continued to blast towards Aokiji. The loud noise shook the sky and the airwaves rolled. Countless pieces of ice kept sputtering out. Advertisement. In the face of that unparalleled power, the extremely thick ice surface was directly blown to pieces. A large amount of seawater couldn't help but gush out. It's shocking. Frost giant, on the ice in the distance. Suddenly there was a low shout, in William's shrinking eyes. The astonishing cold air kept surging. Kaka, a huge humanoid ice sculpture condensed there. At a speed visible to the naked eye, he transformed into a frost giant covered in ice armor. Hey, sure enough, Logia's ability is convenient. William was not too surprised, and grinned directly. All kinds of moves can be simulated. However, this kind of display is still far from enough. William laughed ferociously. He stepped hard and his whole body rushed out like lightning. Showing some incredible speed, Aokiji rushed in front of the frost giant in the blink of an eye. Zero. Call, accompanied by fierce wind pressure. Huge fist seals wrapped around Haki, absolutely overwhelming. Boomed up. Giant fist of ice, Aokiji is not to be outdone. The whole person sank directly into the frost giant. He manipulated it and clenched his fist fiercely. In an instant, the giant ice fist wrapped around high-level Haki. Colliding with that huge figure. Woo-hoo-hoo. The ice shook violently. Two figures were shaking there. Aokiji, just because it's getting bigger, it doesn't mean it must be powerful. William was awe-inspiring and his eyes were astonishing, and he sneered. The telescopic King Cobra. A loud roar broke through the air. The huge fist seals that covered the sky and the earth came with a crazy bombardment. Regardless of speed or strength, they directly crushed the frost giant. Not on the same level at all. Continuous fierce offensive. A large amount of broken ice couldn't help splashing, and the frost giant was smashed into pieces. But during the surge of cold air, it continued to condense and recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. Tempest kick hyphenation point Landuan. The next moment, William jumped up high. His right foot generated fierce wind pressure and kicked out violently. Whoosh, the atmosphere was torn apart directly. A huge and unparalleled light green slash swept out. Boom. He cut straight through the shattered and disfigured frost giant, splitting it into two parts like a giant. Unabated, it blasted towards the ice in the distance. Rumble. Down. Chapter 73 Justice Impact? The Disappeared William, second update? The messy ice surface was shaken continuously. A few kilometers away on the ice, there was an earth-shaking loud noise, and large clouds of smoke and dust billowed into the air. Even from an extremely long distance, you can still feel the exaggerated impact. The ice beneath my feet rumbled. Huge cracks spread one after another. It was indescribably shocking. The giant towering over the sky stood there with murderous intent. He wildly waved the exaggeratedly large fist seal that wrapped around Haki. Reluctantly attacking the frost giant that was cut in half, the extremely powerful observation Haki locked onto the Admiral Aokiji hiding inside. Crazy bombardment and beating. Boom boom, it took a moment. The frost giant was completely torn apart and turned into broken ice that filled the sky and kept splattering. No matter how hard you try, you can't recover, DF. Like a deflated balloon, the huge figure began to shrink. William, whose aura was still extremely astonishing, once again transformed into the 89-meter-tall nightmare form, and took a slight breath. Maintaining the completely giant form, although the combat power has been improved in all directions, far exceeding the ordinary giants, but the load is too great after all. Feeling the rapid loss of physical strength, it was expected that Admiral Aokiji was not seriously injured at all. Logia's ability user is really a hooligan. William frowned, full of helplessness. He didn't hesitate and gave up the enlargement directly. Return to normal nightmare form. I have to say that people with Logia ability are really rogues. Especially, fighting with a strong person like Aokiji is really frustrating. Under the violent attack just now, if it were another person with non-Logia abilities, a strong person with Haki's level comparable to Aokiji, even if he was not severely injured by him, it would definitely be uncomfortable. Hell William, I admit that I do underestimate you. At this time, Aokiji's embarrassed figure rushed up. The right fist is covered with ice and wrapped with high-level weapons. Murderous. But don't underestimate Admiral. I'm not looking down on you, Aokiji. William smiled ferociously. The fighting spirit is extremely fierce. Both fists were raised together brazenly. The amazing armament hockey flows, and the atmosphere is directly distorted. Fluctuations visible to the naked eye are present there. Advertisement, it's heart-stopping. Fist bone justice impact. Aokiji bolted up. Exuding a cold air, it covered the fist seals of high-level hockey. It overwhelmingly overwhelmed the atmosphere and blasted hard at William. Maximum Wheel 6 King Gun. William's eyes were stern. Don't show any weakness and attack forward. Boom boom. Accompanied by a deafening loud noise, the shocking shockwave collided hard. Two figures, one large and one small, refused to give way to each other and were yelling there. Dark prison. Aokiji. The entire ice surface was shaking. The dazzling light and glow were incomparable to the eyes. Huge cracks that were as exaggerated as spider webs spread one after another. The fierce and unparalleled airwaves carried countless broken ice, causing ripples to spread out. Bang! Bang! In unison, two figures flew out like cannonballs. It smashed straight into the ice behind it, causing a large area of ice to collapse and become embedded in it. The ice chips splashed, stirring up smoke and dust all over the sky. IXIE. In ruins. A human-shaped ice sculpture condensed there at a speed visible to the naked eye. Aokiji, who was a bit embarrassed, looked more solemn than ever before. A trace of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. He stood up and looked directly at the ruins in the distance. I haven't been hurt in a long time, this monster. But the next moment, his expression changed, running wildly out. 189. Aokiji's face was livid and his eyes were gloomy. I saw that the ice layer that William himself had smashed into earlier was empty. Where are the traces of him? Too careless, now. The distant sky. DIA. Along with it, bursts of white smoke appeared in the air. The tall, embarrassed figure directly hugged Robin's soft body to prevent the two of them from falling. Advertisement William, who was supposed to be embedded in the ice, suddenly appeared here at some point. The violent figure that looked like a little giant had already returned to its original state. He was completely bare-chested and his trousers were in tatters, completely turning into miserable strips of cloth, like a beggar. William, are you okay? Robin looked at William in shock, who was covered in blood and a little scary, his big eyes full of worry. Just now, the eagle she was riding on suddenly disappeared. Instead, he fell into a broad embrace. I was shocked at first and was about to struggle. It turned out that William was back, and I was relieved. Ahem, don't worry, I'm fine. He wiped the bloodline from the corner of his mouth and said nonchalantly. Aokiji is indeed the highest combat power in the naval headquarters, but if it weren't for hiding the ability of the shadow fruit, he might not be able to hurt me. Although he received Aokiji's punch and broke several ribs, the injuries were neither minor nor serious. But he had used his extremely skillful life to control the muscles and bones and continuously corrected them. With his recovery power far beyond that of ordinary people, coupled with the mysteries of life return and supplementary nutrition and recuperation, it is estimated that it will take about 10 days to fully recover. If we return to the Ship of Terror, he has the superb medical skills of Hogakubarg and the ability of Paramecia, the repair fruit. It is estimated that it will be back to normal in 3 days. Obviously there is no need to tell Robin this, with all the weird and unpredictable abilities of the shadow fruit. If he lets go, uses all his means, and goes all out. Aokiji, the Marine Admiral's hard power, may be able to stabilize him, but he is determined not to hurt him easily. The ability of Paramecia shadow fruit may not be the strongest. But it can definitely be said that life-saving is first-rate. As long as he has sufficient physical strength, he is innately invincible. Of course, if you have to fight to the end with Marine Admiral. Now, there is still a gap between him and those real monsters. Even after absorbing the shadows of the two giant warriors, Blue Ogre and Red Ogre, he used the Dream Demon form. It was only in a short period of time that he could compete head-on with the opponent without falling behind the 4.7 wind. Over time, it will inevitably fall directly into decline. William is still self-aware of this. Sofof, in Robin's surprised eyes. Behind William, a pair of dark shadow wings appeared directly, fluttering there. He took the two of them into the air and flew away into the distance. Although Robin is still a little worried, but seeing William in full swing. Relax a little. However, the biggest gain from this battle is that it fully verified the gap between me and the Admiral of Headquarters. Holding Robin's soft body, William bared his teeth there, showing indescribable joy. He stared into the distance with stern eyes, full of confidence. That distance is not too far away. I will be able to catch up in a short time. Chapter 74 The correct usage of flower fruit, shocked Sengoku. Woo-hoo-hoo. Above the blue sea. The demonic shadow wings are there in sight from time to time. William took Robin and followed the guidance of the lifeguard to speed up. After being interfered with by that guy Aokiji, he naturally wasn't ready to walk slowly anymore. By the way, William, what about your shadow, high in the air? The strong airflow kept blowing towards my face. In order to prevent the hair from getting tangled in the wind, Robin tied it directly into a ponytail. Robin, who looked very heroic and capable, leaned into William's broad arms. I don't mind the blood and dirt at all. Caressing the muscles with perfect lines and full of strength, I felt an unprecedented peace of mind. She looked at William curiously. Doesn't this mean you have no shadow? Don't worry about this. The shadow that replaced the past has turned into an ordinary shadow and disappeared immediately. Even a strong person like Aokiji cannot detect it easily. William smiled and said, it won't be long before it can return on its own. This is one of the characteristics of the shadow fruit. It itself is transformed into a shadow, and it can naturally be transformed into an invisible and uncaptured shadow again. Rather than being easily trapped. 24 Moreover, even if an accident does occur. I had to give up this shadow and did not take it back. At most, it is only for a moment and a half, and it is impossible to directly generate a new shadow mage. It won't have much impact on his host. Robin nodded. Immediately he looked at William quietly and spoke with a smile, but can you restrain yourself a little? I'm protecting you from falling. William spoke plausibly. Naturally, he didn't want to take back the big, soft hand. Moreover, he boldly used a little force and measured it. Hardly. That's not what I'm talking about. Robin's pretty face turned red and she rolled her eyes at William. The whole person was a little soft, unable to lean on the other person's arms. But he didn't refuse the other person's intimacy. In the past few days, except for that one incident, the two have become very close. But having said that, if the opponent's life return is not very powerful, he can freely control his body shape to a certain extent. Such an exaggerated thing, full of murderous intent. She will probably break immediately, right? I'm sorry, I can only call you Robin. William smiled. Lowering his head and biting Robin's ear, he chuckled and said, it's all because of your damn charm, it always makes me a little uncontrollable. It's really not his fault, I can only blame someone for being too charming. I'll just assume you're complimenting me. Why haven't I noticed before that William you are so thick-skinned? Advertisement Robin was speechless and helpless. He rolled his eyes at William angrily. But there was some joy in her heart. Now that you have discovered it, would you like to express your thoughts on me as the client? William's eyes were smiling and full of teasing. Robin blinked, chuckled and said, unfortunately, I seem to have entered the wolf's den. Haha. William laughed. He rolled his eyes. He lowered his head and whispered a few words into Robin's ear. Ah? Robin's eyes widened and he looked at William wordlessly. Now I am convinced that you may not be injured. At the very least, the injury shouldn't be serious. Who is seriously injured and still thinking about these things? Just say whether you are willing or not. William is very direct. On my hands, I started to feel bold. With watery eyes, he looked at the other party angrily. Robin's pretty face turned red. I'm on a pirate ship. She sighed helplessly, but he didn't refuse, and raised his hands gently. William smiled and said, don't use flower fruit's ability yet. Miwaka. Hiss. Next moment. William's expression changed and he gasped, Robin, are you serious? Haha, didn't you ask me to do this? Robin blinked his big eyes, his face full of innocence. Although still the ability of flower fruit. But the movements finally started to become gentle. Little William, don't go too far. Hey, Robin, actually I have an immature suggestion. Tell me. Robin rolled his eyes. This little man has so many tricks up his sleeve and has many demands. With your flower fruit ability, can you change a few more mouths? Get out. Robin cursed angrily, but he tilted his head slightly and looked at William's unkind gesture. Actually, it seems, it's not impossible to consider. Deaf at the same time. Advertisement as far away as Naval Headquarters, Marineford. In the Marshal's office. What did you say? Behind the expensive desk. A tall figure wearing a white military uniform covered with medals, a seagull hat, frog glasses, and a braided beard, sitting there bold and grandiose, holding a microphone connected to a phone bug. The voice suddenly rose, with disbelief and unspeakable annoyance. You, the Marine Admiral, took action personally and actually let them escape? Marine Marshal Buddha Sengoku's face was ashen and he was a little angry. Kuzan. Are you kidding me? This time, considering the potential threats posed by the two coming together, Hell William, the CP9 traitor, and Nico Robin, the archaeologist. He specially sent Admiral, who represented the highest combat power of the Naval Headquarters. Especially, with the support of CP's intelligence, how could the dignified Marine Admiral still let people slip away from him when he was already blocking people? This is a joke. No, I'm really not kidding, Mr. Sengoku. The phone bug imitated the outline of Aokiji, and said in a deep voice, the strength of Hell William has far exceeded our expectations, and we all underestimated him. Even you can't take him down? Hear the words. Buddha Sengoku's face was solemn. How should I put it? If it is a fight to the death, he will definitely not be my opponent. The other end of the phone bug, 460 on the vast ice. Aokiji, who was a bit embarrassed and was riding his bicycle gradually away, stopped and scratched his head.